It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour.
Hi, everybody. How you doing out there? Today is Monday, I believe, the 8th of October, 2018, and Caesar is home. How are you? This is the MMA Hour right here on MMAFighting.com. I'm trying to get everything right. I've slept like 2 hours. We have a lot going on today. You guys all know what's about to happen. UFC 229 weigh-in we'll do. I've got a UFC 229 focused. You can't see it. I've got another laptop here for the Monday Morning Analyst, and a bunch of guests are going to stop by. We'll see about Tony Ferguson. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Hopefully he comes by. I got to ask him about the ball, but I don't know. In studio, I do know this. Fedor Emelianenko is going to be here at about, I think 12:40. 1 o'clock, Ryan Bader. He'll also be here. Look forward to chatting with those gents. And then one of the best coaches in the game had an incredible moment, really, in letting a fight not continue. Duke Roufus will be here at, I think, 1:20. And, of course, your tweets with a round of tweets, your calls with the sound off, and a whole lot more. Got a bit of a late start, so let's just get into it now. I had a wonderful weekend in Las Vegas, and by that I mean I am so tired I could cry. I can't sleep in hotels. But here's what I will say. You know, MMA fans online, it's a bit prickly of a situation, but in person, y'all are tremendous, man. So many people coming up saying they watched the show and that they like it. No way to judge if they're being truthful, but I can tell you that they were being certainly very friendly. Really, really, really friendly people out there, a lot of you. And if you saw me and took a picture or whatever and said hi, I really appreciate it. And anybody who took time to be kind, thank you guys so much. It was really kind of overwhelming to a degree. So I just want to say heartfelt thank you. Okay. And I said, don't say hi and don't be weird. And that was really what happened. No one was really weird. All right, let's go to the arroz to my frijoles, the arequipe to my pan, and the chambea to my hala. He is the producer of this wonderful show, the one and only Danny Segura. Let's pull him up. How come I can hear you and I can't see you?
Yo.
There he is.
I'm here.
I still can't see you on the big screen, though. Oh, all right. You getting that up?
A few seconds.
How you doing there, bud?
I'm good. You?
Tired, man. I'm so tired.
Tired as well. It was a long weekend, but man.
There you are.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. You guys back here on the home front did a killer job all the way from the top down. Everyone was pulling their weight out there, either in Vegas or back home. So I want to make sure I want to tell you thank you, and I want to tell everyone on the MMA Fighting staff, all the way including Pete Carroll, all the way in Ireland. Everybody did a bang-up job. I thought it was a showcase of what this site can do. So thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to everyone on the team. Killer coverage all week. Head over to our YouTube channel. Tons of cool video content, interviews with all the fighters, everything.
Oh, and shouts to Mark Ramundi and Sean Al-Shadi. Boy, sure. Those boys burned the midnight oil. I can't talk today, and I get paid to talk. That seems like a problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, off to a great start, right?
Just a bang-up job I'm going to do today. We are going to do the Monday Morning Analyst a little bit later, right? Looking forward to that. Let me ask you real quickly before I get to my weigh-in. What would you say is your biggest takeaway from UFC 229? Biggest overall thing. What is it?
I think we're, and you've mentioned it before, this sport is getting closer to boxing each day. Watching that whole thing go down after UFC 229, I mean, that to me looked like a boxing scene. I feel like we've seen that before in boxing arenas, and just everything that comes with it.
People kept calling it WWE, but that doesn't seem quite right.
No.
You see much more riotous affairs like that.
Yeah.
In boxing showcases.
Yeah. Wild week.
By the way, I forgot real quickly.
Yep.
People can always send us tweets using the hashtag the MMA Hour. We're going to get to those. I heard the calls were overwhelming today, right?
Extremely overwhelming. The inbox was blowing up. Calls from everywhere.
Yeah.
Great calls, by the way. The fans have been stepping up tremendously, and we'll see that later on the show. Like the type of questions that we're getting, they're really good questions. And thanks to everyone. We're probably not going to get to all the calls, unfortunately, because there were so many. But we'll do our best to showcase the best.
All right, and then if there's any evergreen ones, we'll save those. Yep. I guess we're going to get to. We're not sure where we're going to get to those. It might be a little earlier. It might be a little later. I guess we'll just play it by ear. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll come back and check in with you. And by the way, for folks who want to know, you can always call 844-866-2468. That's the number to call whenever you want to leave us. And what's the email address one more time, Danny?
The MMA Hour at voxmedia.com. So if you're an international caller, and can't call, you can always send an MP3 to that email, the MMA Hour at voxmedia.com.
All right, man.
We also got PFL tickets, right?
Oh, that's right. How could I even forget?
Yeah, Long Beach, California.
We're going to give those out around what time? Why don't we give those out around,
Well, don't give the time.
Don't give the time?
No.
Oh, you know what?
We're going to give it somewhere during the show, so stay tuned. And at some point, we're going to open up the hotlines for you to call in and get some free VIP tickets.
There you go. And in studio, we've got The Last Emperor. So It's a big show. I'll check in with you in a bit.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. It is time now, ladies and gents, for the weigh-in. All right, time now for the weigh-in right here on the MMA Hour. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. Look, man, there's only one thing to talk about today, right? And everyone's kind of talked it to death, but we've now had a little bit of time to think about it all and process it and see what it means. We got to talk about that brawl. There's just no other thing to talk about, and which is kind of funny because a truly historic fight happened and a historic moment happened. I'll get to some of that and the more crucial details in the Monday Morning Analyst a little bit later in the show. But let's open it up here talking about this brawl. And here's the central question that I'm trying to ask and I'm trying to dig through. Whose responsibility was that? Like, if we had to attribute blame, who was responsible for the post-UFC 229 brawl, right? And I think a lot of you might say Khabib is the one who's at fault, right? After all, he's the one who jumped out of the octagon and then tried to drop kick Dylan Dennis. And what has become, by the way, a truly iconic photo. If you guys seen it, it's like from the position of Khabib jumping in, neither here nor there. Sure, I could buy that argument. Khabib is to blame. Okay, all right, fine. Some might say it was McGregor to blame, right? Here was the guy going out there and stoking the flames of ethnic and regional tensions, being incredibly disparaging towards somebody's father, family, team, manager. I mean, it goes on and on. Calling him backwards, by the way, which is getting into some really troubling territory as well. And then you could also say, well, he also punched a guy in the octagon, even though he got attacked a little bit. You can see some of it here. So sure, he has some responsibility to bring to this situation as well. It's like, I believe he has a right to say whatever he wants, but you have to know your audience. You got to know who you're playing with. Yo, Khabib Nurmagomedov is about that life, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you like that or whether you hate that, that is a fact. That's just what it is. And if you're going to say those kinds of things, I'm not in any way saying you should allow for that kind of behavior to take place. What I'm saying to you is it's inevitable that it will. It is inevitable that it will. You play with people who don't want to be played with. Don't be surprised when you succeed. Right? You wanted to get into his head. Congrats. You did. So he has some responsibility to bear here. You can say that the security staff did whatever they could, and I believe that. Could there have been more of them? Could there have been better preparations? I suppose. I wouldn't attribute much blame to them. I think they did everything they possibly could. But certainly for next time, maybe some greater precautions should be there. Is the UFC responsible for helping to create a space to facilitate this kind of behavior? You could make an argument that they were. You could make an argument, right? They never really ever sanctioned Conor. In fact, neither did Conor's team, SBG, as I mentioned before. When Marcelo Garcia got tired of Dylan Dennis just being weird on Instagram, chucked him out. Nothing ever happened to anyone over there as far as I know. Certainly nothing ever public. UFC didn't do anything. UFC stood by, not merely with this fight, but as well as with Jose Aldo. Now, they did put on a tremendous event with the green octagon and the steam coming over the top of the smoke or whatever that was. I mean, it was a phenomenal sight, phenomenal booking, and it was a phenomenal success. I take my hat off to him in that respect. But if you allow room for these kinds of ideas to fester, you're going to end up in a bit of an uncomfortable spot. So there's that as well. But here's really what I want to focus on. You could blame all of those actors. The answer really, though, is who is to blame. It's not that it's one or the other. It's kind of everybody. But here's the truth. It's also us. Yeah, it's us. It's us. I saw after the fight a lot of people saying, hey, look, it's no big deal. And by the way, the rematch is going to make $1 million. And that's using the proverbial million. Like, it's going to make a gajillion. It's going to make incredible amounts of money. And here is my response to that. It's like, I believe that. I believe that is true. It's also ghoulish that it's true. That's gross, man. Super gross that would be that way. It is that way, but it just, look, the central insight here is I don't think we should be clutching our pearls and, fainting on couches. These kinds of things have happened in combat sports many times. As I told him Danny, it's not really a WWE thing. It's a boxing thing more than anything else. With these riotous scenes outside of the sporting venue or the arena, not the arena, but the area of contest. You've seen those sites all the time. But when we gleefully indulge in the financial upside of ethnic tension, something's kind of wrong with us, man. Something's a little bit wrong with us. And maybe it's not so wrong with us that it needs some kind of major fixing. And to a degree, it gets to be of a slippery slope. How much of it can be personal? And then it gets to, this crosses the line. And if that doesn't cross the line, but then this crosses the line. And there's this series of escalations and everyone's got this sort of subjective interpretation of it all. I get that it's a little hard to balance, but like the reason why it will make a lot of money if they did a rematch or whatever, they keep these tensions alive, is because customers love it. All of us, me included to a degree, and you out there to a degree. I'm not so upset that it happened in as much as I am a little bit bothered that we're not taking any time to question why we're so happy about a financial upside for this kind of disparagement and debauchery. That seems a little off. You could say, well, look, what about the bus incident and chucking the dolly? Everyone loved that. Well, some people loved that. Some of us wondered if that was really the best idea, or that if at a bare minimum, we should be, so magnifying of it. Go back to that John Malkovich promo that they ran. Not really one mention of the dolly, not any kind of focus on it at all. I kept saying to people, it's not that the bus is not a good vehicle for selling fights. It's just a good vehicle for selling fights to donks. Because the reality is this fight has historic implications, historic importance. It's truly one of those kinds of events. In any event, man, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if they're going to book a rematch, and if they do, I don't know when. I don't know when any of this stuff is going to happen. Here's what I know, though. If you're in a sport and the thing that's really driving you is, man, we can make so much money off of ethnic tension and international rivalry, the fight game is nakedly kind of who you are. Yeah? We all have a preference somewhere for sameness, whether that's a national sameness, a religious sameness, a familial sameness, a color sameness, an ideological sameness. We all have a preference for it all. And that's why when you have these Mexican versus Puerto Rican rivalries in boxing, people get up for it. It's supposed to boost pride, not make money off of the ugliness of conflict. And I feel like we're getting a little bit too far into one side. So who's responsible for it all? Yeah, man, Khabib's responsible for it all. Conor's responsible for it all. UFC, various other actors you could point to in these videos and whatnot. The truth is, we're responsible for it because we crave it, we pay for it, we demand it. Frankly, we reward it. And me and the media, we cover it, perhaps a little too uncritically. And that's my way in. All right, let's do this, Danny. Do we going to do a round of tweets now? You want to knock that out? I believe that's what we're going to do. Yes? We can do. You want to jump into the analyst and do that later? All right, let's do that then. How about this, ladies and gentlemen? It is time now for the Monday Morning Analyst. All right, here I come. Yeah. All right, boys and girls. We're going to turn this up. All right, can you see me? Yes, you can. There it is. Look at that. It's got my big-ass nose. This nostril doesn't work. Isn't that fun? Yay. All right. So if you want, my screen is plugged in. You can go to it now. And here's what we're going to do. I'm still trying to slow roll this. I had some people tell me in person in Vegas, they love the new stand-up portion of this. But the problem is it won't be so great for the audio podcasters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and split the difference. Some of this you're going to have to see with me standing up. Some of it you're just going to have to, you won't necessarily have to. I'm going to give you what I can in broad strokes from an auditory standpoint, and then there are going to be some visual components here as well. Do we have this up? What's the word? Working on it? When we unplug it and plug it back in? Let's try that. Let's give it the old college try. Huh? That should work. No? That's a problem, isn't it? Tell you what, while they're figuring that out, let me give you some of the broad strokes, if we can. It worked earlier. All right. A couple of things here. What I have on video, if I get an opportunity to show here, is a couple of things. I'm going to get to that first takedown sequence that Khabib went to in the first round, And you could go back and you could show the right hand he dropped Conor with, where he fakes the shot and then comes over the top, the blinding speed that he had. You could go to some of the third round stuff with Conor McGregor having the 2-on-1 on the fence, and that doing a really good job of keeping Khabib from advancing position. And then the other part I had, though, is I just had that first round takedown and then the fourth round, which eventually led to the end, because to me that really was the whole story. But here are some of the broad strokes that I think are worth talking about. Number one, I've seen some debate about this. Folks are like, Conor fought well. Conor fought poorly. What's the truth? The answer here, and I've really struggled with how to explain this, but the best way to say it is Conor fought well in parts, but was basically overmatched almost everywhere it appeared. And here's the bigger lesson for me is, not only did he fight well in parts and was slightly overmatched, but when Frankie Edgar gets tired, let's say Frankie Edgar's fully fresh, here's his level of ability. When he gets tired, he's kind of down to here a little bit. When McGregor gets going, he's up here. When he gets tired, it's on the floor. He is a significantly different fighter when he gets tired. Khabib was saying he was going to go in there and smash him. He was going to go in there and make him tired because he taps all the time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, look at that. I'm not going to sit here and say that that McGregor is a front runner. I don't think that's true. I think he's shown heart, particularly in the second Diaz fight, to come back out. He looked good early in the fourth. But as I mentioned, did he fight well in parts? Yeah, he fought well in parts, but he was basically overmatched. That was really the core issue here. So, the point I want to kind of drive home about this, if I may, is in addition to the fact that he's a significantly compromised fighter when he's tired, this is going to be something that we're just going to have to confront as a real, true, unadulterated weakness at this point. Conor McGregor has much better wrestling than I think some folks give him credit. Conor McGregor has much better cardio. Well, I should say he has much better commitment to being tired than I think folks give him credit. But in the end, if you can get him tired, he's just not the same. He's not the same. So Khabib comes out laterally moving side to side, right? And he comes in. I'm going to show you on this video if we can find a way to get it to work. Unfortunately, we're working through that now. I see old Joe down there looking sweating bullets down there, huh, Joe? This is a live video, son. Point being is he was going laterally side to side, right? And if you actually watch the first shot, he actually dives in on the left side. McGregor's standing, well, he's standing actually a little bit with his left leg forward. McGregor sprawls, which forces a late switch on the part of Khabib to go to the other leg, and then there the scramble ensues. Man, McGregor did really well there. He did really, really well there. I'm going to show you that hopefully in just a second. He was out there showing tremendous stuff. But in the end, it just wasn't enough. Folks were saying, oh, he'd been training a year for Khabib. A year is not enough. It's just totally not enough. It can't be. He was able to do pretty well through the first series of takedown attempts in open space. But once the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth level of it all began to reveal itself, that's when all the problems, that's when all the chinks in the armor, so to speak, began to show up. What are we going to do here? What's the word, Joe? You going to try something? It's not working? No? No, because I have to be able to see it. There's no dice on this? Boy, this is terrible, huh? All right, well, so there's no dice on this? Oh, y'all are killing me. This is an what are you gonna do? You know what it is? It's my life. That's what it is. Can we put it back on this one? Yes, thank you. Well, dagger. Let me think here on my feet about what to do. Dun, 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 dun. Hey! You know what you can do? You can try, to get my other laptop. Will that work? No, because I don't have the video on this one. Well, that's a nightmare. Okay. Yeah, you know what? This is a hopeless mess. Wow. What are we gonna do? All right, well, fuck it. Let me think here. How do I want to salvage this on my feet if there's any way to do that? Let's see. Let me think here out loud. Let me say this. Let me just go through this footage in my head for just a second, if I can. I want you to imagine the first takedown sequence. I'm actually not going to give up on this. You know what? I'm gonna fucking push through is what I'm going to do. Hear me out for just a moment. Hear me out. Let me do this. Hear me out for just a moment. Okay. What is so important about this? I have to get through this. I can't, even though I don't have the visual aid, yeah? First takedown sequence. Khabib shoots far outside. He dives for the right side, can't get it, actually ends up on the left. This is where McGregor looked his best. And you're going to see McGregor do a couple of things. He's going to never get himself to a hip, because once he gets to a hip, he's in trouble. He's always got that inside hook to the far side of McGregor's leg, of Khabib's leg, McGregor does. Because if he has that, he can't be taken down to a hip or turned over. And you're going to see him kind of block Khabib's arms from the one arm from coming across, because then he can just double off. It's called a crackdown, what Khabib was trying to do, from a high crotch to a crackdown, where you're just driving and almost turning to your hip. Khabib actually does not do a pretty good job of it. He went to the wrong leg. He had to switch at the last second. He tries to drive it down. He can't do it. And so what you end up seeing with him is McGregor defends it really well the whole time. But what Khabib did have, the hands locked. And when he has the hands locked, the strength in that position when your arms are out here to drive it here, his is unparalleled amazement that he has, the strength to pull. So he ends up standing, and he pulls McGregor's leg up with him. McGregor still got the inside one, but he's now pulling up on it. Why? Because if I can widen your base and I can spread it, I can then affect your balance. Then they start turning in a circle, right? Turning in a circle. How does it end? Do you remember how it ends? I'll tell you exactly how it ends. Khabib goes for another crackdown, driving it. Not a single leg run in the pipe, a crackdown. They're different. He goes for the crackdown, and that's where McGregor makes his fatal mistake. Khabib drives this way with this shoulder down, the right shoulder. At that point, McGregor still is able to stuff it, but what he needs to do with a crackdown is you actually have to end up sort of kind of taking the back a little bit. You have to get their shoulder past you, and then you come around the back. He made the mistake of sticking his leg behind him. Did you guys remember that? And at that point, that was over. Once he made that mistake of sticking his leg behind him, that's when he just decided he was going to not defend it anymore. And I think he probably thought he was still defending it, because you think if I can just split my base and I can balance on my back leg, I'm good. What you're actually doing is you're now creating a weak plane to be taken behind you. At that point, Khabib blocks with the right hand, lifts with the left, turns him over, and drives him to the mat. Why did he scoop the legs and pull them up behind it? And then why does he always turn this direction off the fence? Because he's trying to get the knees and the hips higher than the shoulders, and he's trying to drive McGregor's back to the mat. Go back and watch that. The question about McGregor's wrestling in that sequence is, what's the best part of that? The best part of it is, in open space, he was going takedown attempt with a takedown defense, takedown attempt, takedown defense, and he knew what to do. You have to get behind the guy with your hands locked in sort of a C grip over the back through the crotch. You got to stay on top. You have to keep tight. You have to get your hips, your chest down. You have to be on top of it. You have to get behind and block that tricep, that arm from coming across the body. He did all those things. But when they stood up and Khabib was able to raise his leg again and then go back to the crackdown, he couldn't keep up. He couldn't keep up. It's speed chess, and you're keeping up, and you're keeping up, and you're keeping up, and you're keeping up. And then finally the rook, takes queen or something, right? Whatever the analogy you want to use. So my response to that is, in looking at his wrestling, it's like, man, parts of that were really good, actually. And the quick awareness of what to do. But what I would say is, you just don't have enough to keep up with the scrambling over time with Khabib. He's a very, very dynamic, committed scrambler. And the other part is, go back and watch Khabib's shot. Remember, he reaches this way and ends up on this leg. What does that tell you? It tells you that McGregor recognizes the shot and sprawls, but he doesn't keep moving. He just sprawls and stays there, right? You got to sprawl and move, sprawl and angle, sprawl and angle, sprawl and angle. He never does it. He just kind of sprawls. And then as a consequence, Khabib's able to get the leftover body parts. And once Khabib has this, and he even had it up to his forearm, it's lights out, man. You're just not going to beat that guy with that. It's just never going to happen for you. Now, very quickly, I realize without the visual aid here, this is going to be a little harder to do. So I'm going to try and talk very quickly about the submission. First of all, he gets the takedown again, right? Where he gets tight waist, kicks the leg out, and then he does this bit where he's getting his hands in a gable grip, and you could see Khabib driving his shoulder behind The other shoulder is like rolling into it and then leaning into McGregor, making McGregor put his hands on the mat. When his hands are on the mat, you're carrying everybody else's weight, and then from there you can off-balance them or advance position with a variety of other attacks. You can then turn the direction, and you can go up into it. Go back and look what we're talking about with Khabib, right? When Khabib was in there, he goes to the right, he can't get it. Conor makes a mistake, right? And puts his leg behind him. And then what happens? He's able to go the other direction. So Khabib is changing directionality the whole time. But eventually you'll see he kicks it out. Conor goes to his hands and he does the same thing. He reverses position, drives him backwards and takes him down. From there, he's able to drive to mount pretty quickly. Conor does a good hip escape there to buy himself some time. Oh, look at this. Hey, look at that, Joe. MVP, huh? MV Joe. All right, they got it working. Let's go back a little bit then. Boys, you just saved my day, huh? And I can't show the video. Don't worry, Zuffa, I'm not going to show video. I'm just going to show slides. I'm not going to play any video. This is what I was talking about before. See him hanging on his hands? Look at McGregor here on his hands like that. It's awful. It's awful to be there. And it's not just that he's holding him by the waist and driving into him and leaning down. He's driving kind of behind the head into the shoulder socket a little bit. If you drive right over the top of that head, I think I want to say Kelvin Gastelum this happened to him by Chris Weidman. You can actually turn somebody over. But of course, he doesn't really do that, does he? He goes a bit the other direction. Let me see if I can find where it is. He's going to just turn around. Right here, you see McGregor slump. And McGregor, by the way, doing a lot of fence grabbing with the toes, a lot of grabbing with the hands. People ask, oh, is that dirty? Yeah, of course. But if you've got this guy on top of you and you can tell each situation, like there can be times in grappling exchanges where you know it's just headed one direction. You know that this guy, you could put up a defense for a while, but they're going to find a way around it, and they're going to get the water in the room is going to get higher and higher and higher. You can feel it. You can feel it, and I think he felt that. To be quite clear about it. So here you can see he's got by the way, real quickly, he's got this elbow inside, which is right. That's the right thing to do, but you got to get it all the way across the body, and he doesn't have it. So he gets taken over here. Khabib is able to just put his weight behind it. Again, Khabib gets his hands together. It's over for you. I don't care who you are. And he's going to take him backwards, right? Look here and watch this transition. This is one of my favorite transition. Rolls him back. He's got he's got double unders, which is not necessarily the best grip to have, but he rolls him to the already strong side. He's already got a hook on this side, so he's going to roll him to the side with the hook. Then he's going to bring the free hook around, and McGregor tries to stuff it, which is the right thing to do, but it's not enough. Now McGregor's going to want to get his hips down like a baseball slide, and he's going to want to turn. And the reason why he's going to want to turn is because if he had the Marcelo Garcia over the top and then under the armpit, right? So the over the top comes, and then the one under the armpit holds it. That's always how it is, right? The one coming over the top is like stabbing the heart. The other one is the securing of the stab. He doesn't have that. He's got both underneath. You can spin inside of that. McGregor knows that. Khabib knows that. But in a fight, you got to make some tough choices, right? So what does he do here? He blocks the final hook for a moment. He gets pulled backwards here, and you're going to see, look at McGregor try and step because he wants to avoid that hook coming over the top. And then he's going to try and find a way to reverse like this. You're going to see he's going to try, and I think he's going to bring that bottom knee through, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. I'm a little too far over. There we go. Let's see what he does here, frame by frame. Again, I'm not going to play the video one time. Now, Khabib is trying to lock this up, and you can see what McGregor's going to do is actually a little bit different. He posts his feet on the ground. His hips are now in the air. He's going to try and turn because there's nothing actually controlling his shoulders there. Right? You're just on the rib cage. Nothing controlling the shoulders. Let me show you when this scramble is over. I'll show you exactly when it's over. Ready? Right? Well, first of all, he's lost his feet. So you could argue here, but I would not say that. Now the scramble's over. Why is that scramble over, Joe? Can you tell me? You can't tell me? That. He's already got his hips up. He's already off. He's already got an arm around the side. He could probably move it up here to the side of the throat if he wanted to. But here's the real reason why he won. He got to his elbow first. If you get, put yourself on the ground, just lay there, and then you can sit up and try to stand without putting a hand or an elbow on the ground. Try to roll over to the side and try to like boost your hips over. Without that elbow, you can't do it. But not as well, but with the elbow, that elbow there, that is going to give him the posting mechanism he needs to bring his hips on top. And when he does, he's going to move right into mount. Watch. McGregor's going to try and sit up. He's going to try and put his feet on the ground. And it doesn't matter. Look whose hips are already higher. And look Where's he posting? Off of his toe, off of his elbow. You can't beat that. The scramble's over already. He's dead already. He just doesn't know it. Yeah? Watch. He's going to come right up top. And you can see McGregor just getting, look at that face. It's not a happy time, man. And Nurmagomedov just comes up on top. Now, he brings his base back a little bit, which allows the knees to come up inside. I'll advance past this because they were talking about like, oh, he's got halfway towards a head and arm triangle. Not really. I mean, that wasn't really true. But I want to go back and point out here, in all of these situations, who's dictating the position? Who's dictating where the position goes? Who's dictating the control? It's that guy. All right? Let's fast forward a little bit here. As I mentioned, this is what I'm talking about. He's got the arm in like here, so there's no choke there. And to get it out and to weave it back in would just be a little hard, so there's no choke there. I don't really care about that. You can see he's in 3/4 mount because the foot is still there. McGregor did a pretty good job of at least not totally giving up position. Here you can see him pass. Now, you're going to see McGregor use this elbow right here. He's going to put it against the hips, and he's going to try to get his hips past, right? Which he does right there. Now he's got like a knee shield, right, where the shin is across the hip. He's kind of got that a little bit there. Again, I don't have time to go into all of this. But here Khabib is setting up for the beginning of the end, right? Sort of forcing him to pick his poison, which direction he wants to go. He's banging on him, right? And by the way, just look at the body language, right? This is a terrible scene. You know, it's better to be on your hip than your back, so that's fine. But just look at and it's not that he's quit. It's not that. It's that he recognizes this is a terrible position with not a lot of easy ways to get to something good. Like you can read it in his body language. Khabib is just all over him to the point where any choice he makes, he doesn't like, literally, if you see someone on the ground and they're kind of not doing a whole lot except like defending like the real obvious stuff, it's because they don't really know what to do, because if they make a choice, they don't want there to be a catastrophic counter. I think it's a little bit what you have here, plus fatigue. Okay, so then he moves, he tries to buck and roll here. Right, and then he moves to mount a little bit here, all the way up to mount. Now McGregor tries to roll to his base. Yeah, you all see that? Now let's go back just a little bit here. How does this choke get set up? All right, here we are. McGregor goes to his base. Look at McGregor's hands with the blue gloves. Yeah, it looks like Khabib's hand, but it's not. Look at the blue hands, right? No defense whatsoever, none. He is using all energy available to merely post his weight. Okay. You know, I understand that need, but if you do that against a guy like this, I don't have to say much after that. Now watch. He's going to come up, right? And he puts the forearm across the throat here. Not quite there. You can see the blue gloves are going to be the ones that you want to pay attention to, because those are the ones that are going to be doing all the hand fighting. All right, Khabib kind of rolls him off here a little bit to the side. And you can see here it is. He tries to drive that hand through, and it looks like he wants to get so it actually would be this way. And he wants to get a gable grip, right? That's what he's looking for. All right? Puts his head on top of the head. Why? Because even if it's an illegal shot, somebody can headbutt you. A lot of times people do rear naked chokes wrong all the time. Joe, you want to be on camera? You want to be choked? No? All right. A lot of people do rear naked chokes wrong all the time. They do the bicep grip, and then they kind of push their hand here. But if you put the hand where the palm is facing out, it's not nearly that strong of a position. People think you can push the head forward, but you really can't. And you can get the knuckles smacked in your face, so it's kind of hurt. So you actually want to make a fist, have the knuckles in the open palm face you, and then the head to the side, so it's this nice, tight, controlled space. That's actually the way to do it. Now, that's an ideal scenario. If you're in a fight, a gable grip might be enough. But here we go. So you can see him. He's not really hand fighting here, right? He's going to push up to his hands, and you're going to see Khabib drop his lats and then kind of pull and twist a little bit here. Even though the choke is on the left side of the body, the choke is here, but he's kind of pulling here a little bit that way. You're going to see that. He's pulling up, too, and driving his hips in. McGregor puts one hand up and doesn't even really hand fight, because I think he kind of knew that this was not going to go his way. Here's the other thing about this, and I'll explain in just a second. You know, let's jump here a little bit, if we can, to the very end, so I can get a good look at here, this is what I wanted to look at. Now, he didn't do a lot of hand fighting, McGregor. which folks might dock him for. You could if you wanted to. Look at this submission. Folks are going to say, well, this is not a choke, and it's not, although it can become one. It's just a pain submission. But the reality is, this is no less of a pain submission than an armbar. What's happening here? He is squeezing the TMJ, the part of your jaw, and even down here, depending how it goes, where it fits into the groove. This submission is a new thing because so many people were ducking their chin. And you could say, well, if it is such a good submission, why even bother for the neck? Well, because the neck, if you get it right, you don't need to tap. They're gone, right? It's just you can just put them out. With this one, you have to apply some serious pressure. And here's the interesting part about that. You notice he didn't tap right away. The reason why he didn't tap right away is when you first get this locked on, it hurts, but it's not that bad. But when you keep squeezing and you keep squeezing and you keep squeezing, at first you're like, I can live with this, I can live with this, I can live with this. And then you get to a point where you're like, I cannot live with this anymore. And by the way, you can get your jaw broken this way. It's very possible. You can break it down here. You can even break it right where it fits into the socket. It's a very, very, very painful choke or submission anyway. But it's just not painful. It's not peak painful at first. Like an armbar kind of goes 0 to 60 a little bit. This one takes a second to set in, which is why you see he pulls his hand up here, right? And you can see Khabib kind of leaning over and pulling up a little bit. And then he just wants to tap. And look at that face. Look where he's getting pulled. He's getting pulled at the edge. It's getting gable gripped and then pulled like a razor across the top of a cutting board or something, right? And there it is. There's the tap. I wish I could have done more. We ran out of time. But I just want to point out here, this was a masterclass. I actually think he took the third round off. I know there's some debate about that on Twitter. I don't really think there should be. He came out and looked fresh as a daisy in the fourth round. I think he wanted to kind of see where things were in the third, dropping him in the second, and of course taking him down in the first. Real quickly, if I have just a minute. Yeah, I have just a minute. I want to show one thing. Here is that final sequence I was talking about. McGregor does so well here to defend, but this is where everything goes poorly for him, right? Look at this. He's got the leg across. That's going to stop him. He's got Tucky behind the tail to check in the oil there to keep his posture in the right position so he doesn't go too far down. He gets taken with a crackdown, sort of, to his right. Watch this. I'm almost done, guys. I know we got to get to Fedor. This part is all right. Kind of stuff in the head. Needs to have his shoulders. You want to make sure that arm doesn't get across. He needs to kind of be on top. So the grip here is not great. But really the key mistake for me is not that. It's this one. He gets up to the side, and then now that's it. Struggle over. Watch. Khabib recognizes it, uses this hand to block this side, drives his weight underneath, turns him, and is going to pick him up. Look at the left foot right here. Watch that come up. He's going to pick him up, drive, and look at the triangle. There's nothing protecting him here, right? He puts the hand down, but there's nothing protecting him here. And he goes over. All right. And that's it. Look, picks him up and then takes him over. Look, there's nothing protecting him here. You can stop the first, you can stop the second, you can stop the third, you can stop all of those kinds of things. But in the end, if you just can't match this person over time, it's going to be a real bad day for you. That choke at the end, it wasn't in all the way as a choke, but as a pain submission, it was. It takes time to settle in. That's exactly what you saw. People talking about a rematch, he's going to need a long time in between the first and second fights if he wants to make up ground like this. This, to me, was not complete domination, but pretty damn close. Khabib Nurmagomedov is the best 155-pounder in the world. Argument over. All right, let's go to our next guest. I believe we got the last emperor in here. Let me go back to my seat. Yes? All right, bring him in. Yeah? Let's do it, boys, girls, ladies, donks. All right, let me go to my seat while we wait. Here we are. All right. All right. You know what, Joe? I take my hat off to you, buddy. That was not easy, was it? You're out there sweating bullets. And by the way, we checked all that stuff ahead of time. So they're like, wow, you didn't do tech stuff. Also, I'll just say I'm kind of known as the guy who has terrible tech all the time. I'm the one who, even my live chats I did for all those years, they were disasters, auditory disasters, and everything else in between. All right, man. I know we're just basking in the glory of UFC 229, but of course Bellator is going to be this weekend, and Fedor Emelianenko is going to be in the semifinals now against Chael Sonnen. We have him here in studio. We're just waiting for that to take place, and we'll bring him in. I want to ask him, of course, about not only that fight, but about Khabib as well. That should be kind of interesting. So Let me know when we're ready to do that, yes? While I'm still good looking, boys, because those days are fading fast. I think they're coming here. All right. Well, I don't really know. Yeah. Yes, I guess. All right. All right, we're still waiting. Let's do a round of tweets. Let's do it. I can't see the clock. All right, here we go. Put the 5 minutes on the board. Is it up? All right, hit it. As soon as it goes, there we go. All right, Luke, will it come as a surprise to you if Khabib gets a slap on the wrist by the Athletic Commission, the UFC ignores the post-fight buffoonery, and an immediate rematch is booked? Not even a little bit. In fact, that's the likeliest outcome. There might be some greater penalties by the minimum standard, like they may not do the exact bare minimum. But I don't think, if the UFC didn't do anything about the Dolly, why on earth would they do anything about this? It's not in their interest to. And the commission, they want to make money. They'll probably make a little bit of a show of it, but, look, they're like, oh, Canelo tested positive for 2 different kinds of prohibited substances. Your fight can take place here just a little delayed. All right, next one. What if they do a Ultimate Fighter AKA versus SBG season? I won't watch it. Next. How much credit should Javier Mendez and AKA take for this win? Not just this performance, but for turning everything around as they were known as an injury team and for pulling up and now hold 3 belts in the UFC. Not only that, they have champions. They had 2 different heavyweight champions in Kane and DC. They had another champion in DC at light heavyweight. They had Luke Rockhold at middleweight, and now they've got Khabib Nurmagomedov at lightweight. And of course, every fighter's success is a little bit dependent on their own circumstances. Khabib, of course, has a separate team he trains with independently of AKA. And AKA did some recruiting as well, right? They didn't just open up. They were a family gym for a long time, so a lot of their success is quite frankly remarkable, but they also did some recruiting. But the point being is for a camp to have that many champions, modern UFC champions, not like old school ones, that's basically unheard of, right? That's just totally, utterly remarkable. All right, next. Hi, Luke. Unblock me, please. Danny, make sure you save this tweet so I can unblock this gentleman later, okay? All right, next. Wouldn't knowing we have a 5-round Diaz-Poirier fight for the 165 belt next month anyway, be so much more exciting? Yes, it would, Vanessa, and I can't believe there's a female viewer here of this show or any show in MMA. Yes, it would make a difference, but in the end, we have what we have. I don't know what to say about it. We have what we have. All right, go. Number 1, is this trash talk culture getting out of hand? Yes. 2, what role does UFC as an institution play when it comes to deciding what is right or wrong? How far is too far while promoting a fight? Man, that's a much more complicated question than we can use, frankly, in this segment. It's a very, very good one. Here's what I would say, though. I wouldn't expect much. Dana White has been pretty clear. You can kind of say whatever you want for the most part. I think someone's going to run up against that limit. Can you really, if you wanted to, could you call someone the N-word? I don't think you could. So there must be some kind of limit on it. But for the most part, there's no real limit on it. And remember, they had a code of conduct. When Matt Mitrione said those things about Fallon Fox, they began to hammer punishments down, and Nate Diaz got fined by the code of conduct. Those days are over. They still have a code of conduct, but I don't think they really enforce it very much. And I don't think they want to run into problems related to independent contractor versus employee by making them wear certain clothing, and then now you have this code of conduct for your behavior at all times, whether you're on the job or not. So I would not expect much in the way of leadership. Next. Let's see. Why didn't Herb Dean disqualify Khabib? I've seen regional fights where the winning fighter got DQ'd for unsportsmanlike behavior right after they finished their opponent. Was a bit surprised when Bruce Buffer announced Khabib the winner. It's a great question. I have no idea. That's a great question. You're right. I've seen that too. I didn't even think about that. Huh. Good one. You know what? We'll try to ask him. How about that? Next. Did you guys know that Derek Lewis's Instagram followers doubled since his fight, and Rogan mentioning his IG on the broadcast at UFC 229? He's approaching 1 million followers at the moment. Before UFC 229, he had between 400 and 500K followers, if I'm not mistaken. I did not know that, but if there's a better person who deserves more attention, I don't know who that is. That would 100% go. What a great guy he is. What a great guy he is. So good for him. Next. Up or under $5 million pay-per-view buys in Conor versus Khabib 2? I'm not. I'm not sure what that means, 5 million. You mean, would they make 5 million? They make $5 million easy. You mean 5 million pay-per-view buys? No, it still wouldn't do 5 million because you would have to do a big-ass tour for that. And by the way, Conor played it right in his way. You know, he tries to affect everybody. Khabib played it right in his way, too. All right, last one. Let's do it. In spite of anyone's personal opinion of the out-of-competition brawl fest, how much do you think Khabib's actions diminished his in-cage performance and perhaps mitigated a lot of the hit Conor's Q rating might have taken? I think it actually did make a difference. Yeah, if you really go back and look at the footage, there are some things, as I mentioned, where very good. McGregor looks pretty good, but most of the time it was one-way traffic, and there's not a lot of discussion about it. All right, let's bring him in now. He is the last emperor, perhaps the greatest heavyweight to do it. He'll be fighting, I think, this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, in the semifinals of the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. It's always an honor to have the last emperor in here. Let's bring him in now. There he is. Hey, look at that. All right. How you doing, sir? Nice to see you. Ooh.
Nice to see you.
Hi there.
Здравствуйте.
Nice to meet you. I'm Luke.
Nice
How
to
are you?
meet you.
All right.
Really nice to meet you.
No Mike Kogan this time, Fedor?
No.
Where's Mike?
Tatiana with me.
Okay. All right. How are you doing, sir?
Everything okay, thank
Good. Are
you.
you excited about Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel physically?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah?
Thanks God.
Yeah. Where is all your training? Is it still all in Russia?
Тренируетесь вы все еще в России? Все в России?
Ну, подготовка была в два этапа. Первый этап был в России, в Старом Осколе, а второй в Голландии.
The camp actually consisted of two stages. The very first stage was in Russia, and the second one was in Holland.
Holland. Do you like Holland?
Нравится в Голландии?
Нравится в России.
Yeah, I like Russia.
You like Russia? Wait. Hold on. What's wrong with... I love Holland. What's wrong with Holland?
А ему нравится Голландия. А что не так с Голландией?
Мне нравится тренироваться, там хорошие люди меня окружают.
I like to train in Holland, and there are a lot of good people around me there.
Yeah.
Но моя жизнь, скажем, в Голландии заключается спортзал, дом, спортзал.
But my life in Holland, that mostly gym, home, gym.
Fair enough. Okay. I have to ask you about the brawl that happened over the weekend. What did you make of that craziness?
Хотелось бы
The brawl we
спросить.
saw at UFC 229.
Надо спросить, конечно, о том, что в эти выходные случилось вот это совершенно сумасшедшее UFC 229.
Я не смотрел, к сожалению. Ничего не могу сказать по этому поводу.
Unfortunately, I didn't watch it, so I cannot say anything about that.
Did you hear about it?
А слышал, по крайней мере.
Слышал.
Yes, I did hear about that.
Do you think it's, what are people saying in Russia? Do they care? Is it a bad look? Does it matter?
А что в России вообще люди говорят? Что-нибудь они говорят? Как-то выглядело хорошо или плохо вообще? Значит ли это что-нибудь?
Ну, вообще, я уже здесь с четверга, поэтому...
Well, actually, I arrived to the United States on Thursday.
Oh, okay. All right. So you just got here, yes? Or something like that.
Недавно прибыли уже сюда.
But let me just ask this as a general question, as an abstract question. Will a riot at a UFC fight with a Russian fighter, will that have any implication for what happens in Russia, in Russian MMA? Like, are the two events related at all? Does that make sense?
Two events, you mean UFC event and...
Will that riot have any impact for the sport in Russia?
Ну, вот эти вот соревнования, они как-то отражаются на развитии, на спорте вообще в России?
Какие конкретно?
Which events? UFC?
Khabib jumping out of the cage and then attacking Conor's teammates.
То, что Хабиб выпрыгнул из клетки, и то, что он атаковал людей.
Ну, я не могу по этому поводу сказать, потому что, я говорю, у меня не было еще в России.
Well, I cannot say anything about that, and I don't know actually what was the reaction because I was not in Russia at that very time.
All right. Be curious to know and find out. By the way, you've spoken a couple times with Vladimir Putin, right?
Вы же общались, вы пару раз разговаривали с Владимиром Путиным, да?
Пару раз.
Yeah, a couple of times.
He calls you after you win?
А когда вы выигрываете, он вам звонит?
Нет.
No.
No? Oh, really?
Правда?
When does he call you?
Я часто меняю номера, поэтому...
Well, I change my telephone numbers very often. And it's not very easy, actually, to catch me on the phone.
Why do you change your number so
А
often? That's
почему вы
funny.
меняете так часто ваши номера?
Потому что корреспонденты узнают, и нежелательные люди, поэтому я...
Because of media correspondence, they find out the numbers, very fast.
Oh,
And
they
some
change,
people, right, and some people would actually not desirable.
How many phone numbers have you had in the last 5 years?
А сколько за 5 лет раз вы поменяли телефон? Сколько у вас было телефонных номеров?
Ну, 5, наверное, было.
About 5, maybe.
Okay, one a year. That's not so bad.
Раз в год.
That's not so bad. All right, let's talk about your fight coming up. You're taking on Chael Sonnen here. You know, again, I'm sure you saw, at least you've heard of Conor. He plays all these mind games against Khabib, but it didn't really work. It actually backfired. Khabib was fired up, ready to go. Chael has said some things about you. Do you ignore it? Are you aware of it? What relationship do you have to the trash talk about you from him?
Ну, вот мы видели то, что произошло вот в бое между Хабибом, между Конором, сколько у них было до этого перепалок словесных, и как это сыграло вообще, и как это повлияло на выход Хабиба. Он вышел весь такой готовый. Каково ваше отношение вот о том, что Чел говорит о вас, вот о всякой такой, о вещах, которые он говорит о вас?
Я к этому отношусь ровно.
Well, I have very smooth attitude, so that's...
Smooth attitude? Like doesn't bother him?
То есть вас это никак не беспокоит?
Not at all?
Абсолютно.
No, it doesn't.
Has it ever, like at any point in his career, any opponent say, like Naoya Ogawa refusing to shake hands, right? I remember that pretty clearly.
А когда-нибудь вообще это задевало вас? Когда-нибудь это отражалось на вашем настрое?
Нет, абсолютно никогда.
No, it never actually influenced, never, you know, affected my camp, my preparation.
Нет, конечно, нет. Это не надо обращать на это внимание.
No, because, I mean, you just don't need, you don't have to, you don't need to pay attention at that.
What is this fight about for you?
Что этот бой значит для вас?
Возможность выхода в финал.
That gives me the possibility to get to the finals.
But I'm asking...
Конечно, я выступаю за свою страну, прежде всего.
Certainly, first of all, I perform and I represent my country.
Мою веру представляю.
And perform for my country. And I glorify my faith as well and my country.
I see. So that's what the fights are about. Because, you know, when someone like you comes around and they're a legend in the game, every time they fight, there's this big, I don't know how you say it, literary narrative about him. Oh, what does this mean? What are the implications? What does this fight mean for him? It sounds like what he's saying is it means an athletic competition, no more, no less, and then his personal values being on display, right?
Но когда выступают вот легенды, всегда все задаются вопросом, что для него это значит, насколько это важно. Но вот для вас то, что вы участвуете в соревнованиях, то, что вы выступаете, это больше как участие в соревнованиях. Для вас это насколько важно?
Ну, конечно, для меня это очень важно.
It is very important for me.
Я являюсь представителем своей страны.
Because I'm the representative of my country.
Там уже единственным из своей страны в этом Гран-при.
And I'm the only one representative of my country in this very Grand Prix.
So it's about representing who you are.
То есть это больше для вас это участие, это то представлять вот кто вы есть.
Ну, я думаю, люди знают, кто я есть.
Well, I think people do know who I am.
Sure, of course.
Конечно.
What do you make about the other side of the bracket? You've got Matt Mitrione and Ryan Bader. We'll talk to Ryan Bader a little bit later. Do you have any thoughts about who might win that one?
Вы думали о бое Бейдера и Митриона? Думали ли вы для себя, расставляли ли какие-то приоритеты? Что там будет с этим боем?
Нет, пока нет. Я думаю, еще рано. Все будет ясно только после моего боя.
I didn't think about that. I haven't thought about that yet because everything will be clear after my fight.
Not hopeful for a Mitrione rematch?
Ну, нету ли у вас какой-нибудь, не питаете вы надежд по поводу рематча с Митрионом?
Если Бог даст ему победить, я буду рад рематчу.
If it's God's will to win, I will be happy.
Если, естественно, Бог даст мне победить тоже.
If it's God's will for him to win and for me to win, so I'll be happy to have a rematch.
How is Russian MMA today? Is it healthy?
Как сегодня развивается русский ММА? Как там, все хорошо?
Да, слава Богу, все хорошо.
Yeah, everything is great.
Огромное количество ребят, занимающихся, желающих выступать и по любителям, и которые из любителей переходят в профессионалы, и также несколько хороших бойцовских лиг, в которых ребята выступают, реализуют себя. Также любители ребята переходят в профи, бьются за границей очень удачно, успешно.
Yeah, there are a lot of kids, there are a lot of boys, who are eager to go to MMA. So there are a lot of them in amateur sport and professional sport. There are a lot of amateurs who go to professional sport. There are a lot of good different leagues, and where they have really very good fighters. And also the leagues, the representative of these leagues, they perform abroad as well. So it's developing.
What's the biggest change in Russian MMA since you fought in Pride?
Какое было самое большое изменение в жизни ММА в России с тех пор, как вы сражались в Прайде?
В России какое изменение?
Да. In Russia.
In Russia, yeah.
В России, да.
Certainly it's grown.
То есть, безусловно, он растет.
Ну, конечно, популярность растет ММА. Но так случилось, что когда Прайд прекратил свое существование, бои больше стали показывать по ТВ. Даже те же бои Прайда. Вот, естественно, популярность значительно выросла.
Well, certainly the popularity of MMA grows a lot, and after the end of Pride, somehow it happened so that they started showing more fights, even from Pride, on TV, and the popularity, getting bigger.
What's your weight today?
Какой сегодня ваш вес?
Я думаю, где-то 108.
108 килограмм. Yeah, well, I think something about 108 kilos.
108 kilos. How do you, in your mind, what's your best weight for performance?
По вашему мнению, какой для вас самый лучший вес, чтобы выступать для боя?
Для меня самый лучший вес тот, которым я себя хорошо чувствую, когда я дышу. Я не привязываюсь к весу, я не регулирую его особо. Я стараюсь нагружаться физически максимально, работать с весами, с тяжелыми спортсменами, атлетами. Вот. А вес уже такой, какой он есть под бой.
Well, actually, the best weight for me, this is the weight when I feel myself really comfortable.
108 kilos?
108 где-то.
More or less, something like that?
I'm not, I
10
don't.
лет назад я чувствовал себя хорошо и 105 килограмм.
10 years ago, I felt really very good when I was 105 kilos. For me, good weight means the weight when I feel comfortable, when I can breathe good. That's why when I exercise, when I work out, I work a lot with weights. I just have sparrings with heavy weights as well. So, but I'm not like really concentrated. I'm not trying to hold some certain weight.
Does he do okay, you do kettlebells, right? You know kettlebells?
Kettlebells.
You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Do you do any kinds of primary lifts? Bench, deadlift, squat, anything like that? Do you know these terms? No?
Sorry.
Oh, dagger. I was trying to see if... okay, I don't know how you translate it. The deadlift? Does he deadlift? That's the name of the term. Do you know Belkin? Mm-hmm. The power lifter? Belkin? Do you do any of those things?
Я не знаком.
Не знакома. Ты с такими весами занимаешься?
Ну, я же не пауэрлифтер, я же не...
No, I'm not a lifter.
Oh.
I'm not a lifter.
Поменьше.
Yeah, I take less weights.
Yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. What are you expecting from...
Чтобы сильно не устать.
Not to be really tired and exhausted.
Yeah, I understand.
Потому что у меня уже 42.
Plus, if you take into consideration, I'm 42 already.
You know what? But you're a healthy 42. Healthy as a horse.
У вас очень здоровые 42.
Это снаружи так картинка.
That's just the appearance, the outside, the picture.
All right, fair enough.
На самом деле, конечно, работаем много с тяжелыми весами.
But in fact, certainly, to tell the truth, I work a lot with heavy weights as well.
Если ты хочешь биться на уровне, то тут, конечно, не должен уступать и молодежи в той же подготовке, те же веса.
Because if you want to keep and to fight on the certain level, certainly you have to be on the same level as, young sportsmen are.
Maybe one day we can meet in Holland and we can deadlift together. How would that be?
Может быть, в Голландии мы потренируемся и тяжелые веса поподнимаем вместе. Как это?
Deal?
Договорились?
Yeah, look at that. Sweet. All right, before you go, very quickly, Chael Sonnen as a fighter.
Chael Sonnen как боец.
What are you expecting from him on Saturday?
Что ты ожидаешь от него в субботу?
Ну, что он Выйдет и будет биться достойно.
Well, I'm expecting him to come out and to fight on the good, very good level.
Anything in particular?
А что-нибудь примечательного, особенного?
Особенно надо будет только в бою смотреть.
Anything particular we'll have to see in the fight,
Yeah.
during the fight.
What gets you the most excited? Like what, anything. What gets you to like stand and cheer?
Что больше всего вас приводит вот в возбуждение или там заставляет нервничать, вот стоять и болеть за это, или там самое такое эмоциональное?
Когда бьются мои бойцы. Когда бьются из команды. Когда я секундирую.
I get really very excited when the fighters from my team fight. When I'm the corner man for my team.
All right, I believe that. All right, let's try this. Favorite movie. What's Fedor's favorite movie?
А любимое кино какое?
Русский кино, не знаете.
These are Russian movies, you don't know.
Give me a name, I can watch it.
А вот дайте назовите, я могу же посмотреть.
Но я не часто смотрю фильмы.
It's not very often that I watch movies.
Есть вот русский фильм «Остров».
There is very good Russian movie, The Island.
Okay. I'm going to watch that.
Я это
I'm going to watch
посмотрю.
that.
Обязательно.
Но если забивать, наверное, лучше «Остров». Прям по-русски, как и
But
слышно.
if you put that in the search, just put that in Russian, the way you hear it, it is Остров,
Okay.
which is the island.
I'll do that. Favorite book?
А самая любимая книга?
Тоже русский. Я читаю.
These are also Russian books.
We got to get you some books from around the world, man.
Ну, какой-нибудь на мировом уровне.
Nothing wrong with Russian books. Nothing wrong.
Простите,
Ничего,
русские авторы — это мировой уровень. Это топ мирового уровня.
Russian authors, that's a world scale.
Sure.
These are world's authors.
No doubt. I don't deny it.
Не отрицаю.
Favorite either musical act or musician or something related to music. Favorite kind of music, maybe.
Любимая музыка или музыкант, музыкальный.
Something Russian, I'm guessing.
Ну, я так думаю, что что-то русское.
Я слушаю в основном духовную музыку.
Yeah, I usually listen to spiritual Russian music.
Okay. All right.
Вот можно привести сербскую певицу, как она сказать, исполнительницу Дивну Любоевич.
And also the Serbian singer Dina
Дивна Любоевич.
Дивна Любоевич.
Perfect. How many more times do you think you'll fight in America? Any way to say?
Сколько еще раз вы думаете, вы будете биться в Америке? Есть что сказать?
Сколько Бог даст.
As many times as God will give to me.
Is there any? How about this? Years more potentially? Potentially.
Ну, потенциально года, думаете? Сколько лет?
Come on!
Сколько лет?
А я уже отсюда скоро на костылях буду выходить. А они все будут хотеть, чтобы я бился.
Very soon it seems like I will be leaving this very place with cranchers, and you still want me to fight.
Yes. I'm unfair. I'm so sorry. Last thing about this, and I mean this sincerely, it is a weird time for Russian-American relations, unfortunately. Do you feel any of that? I'm hoping you don't, of course. It would be terrible if you were. But there's this weird tension happening between our countries, which is really unfortunate. But are you a victim of that in any way?
Сейчас вот какое-то очень странное время во взаимоотношениях между Россией и Америкой. Это вот на вас как-то отражает? Ну, хотелось бы, конечно, чтобы это на вас не отражалось, но вы как-то это чувствуете? Чувствуете ли вы, может быть, что вы вот жертва вот этих отношений сейчас или как?
Нет, на мне, слава богу, никак это не отражается. Но, конечно, я переживаю. Переживаю за наши народы и то, что происходит между нами. Это, конечно, далеко не хорошо.
Well, the relationship right now in between Russia and America, that doesn't affect me. But certainly, to tell the truth, I really feel very sorry for that relationship. And I do feel sorry for very tense relationship in between our two nations, because this is what's going on right now. This is not good.
Well, you know what is good? You'll be in the cage on Saturday.
Знаете, что будет хорошо, это то, что будет
in the main event taking on an American, so you might just ratchet up the tensions, Fedor. Thanks a lot.
Спасибо.
I'm teasing.
Спасибо.
I'm teasing.
Спасибо большое. Thank you very much.
But it's good to see you back. Thank you so
Очень
much for
хорошо, что
stopping
вы
by.
вернулись. Спасибо, что
I
остановились.
wish you nothing but the best of luck on
И я,
Saturday.
конечно, все желаю самого лучшего на
Thank you
субботу.
very much.
All right.
Я тоже очень
By the way,
желаю.
where's the sweater? No sweater?
А
You
где же
want to play
свитер знаменитый?
Забрали.
Yeah, it was taken.
one? It was taken.
Забрали?
Ну, не то, чтобы забрали, но...
It was not like
Я к нему не
taken.
привязываюсь.
You just lost it.
Что он есть, что его нет.
But for me, it's not a big difference. It doesn't matter if it
его
exists or
хотят-
not.
Да, его Bellator продаст, а деньги пойдут на Bellator.
But what
Поэтому желающий, кто захочет, тот приобретет его.
will happen to the sweater? Bellator will sell it on charity auction,
Okay.
and the money will go for charity. So anybody who'd like to participate, they're
Amazing.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Спасибо
Thank you, sir.
большое.
All right, I'll see you on Saturday.
В субботу
All right.
увидимся.
There he is, Fedor,
Всего
greatest
хорошего.
heavyweight of all time, right there. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I'm sorry about asking about the deadlift, but it is a
Okay,
real
no problem.
thing.
No problem. I will check on that.
Okay. I really appreciate that.
Thank
All
you.
right, and we go from one Bellator heavyweight to another. We have Ryan Bader here, who, of course, is going to be taking on Matt Mitrione, I believe the day before. So this should be kind of interesting. Let's get Mr. Bader up on in here, and we'll do that now. He's coming? I was told he was mic'd up. Let's do this. Darth is here. Does he still go by that name? We'll find out. There he is. Sorry, I couldn't even see anything. Look at that. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good to see you.
Good. Likewise. Can you believe he didn't know what the deadlift was? I was terribly disappointed by that.
Figured it out. So
I see you got the 8-man strong on.
I do.
Those are the powerlifting guys,
Yep.
right? They're big time MMA guys too?
Yeah, so they got into the
We're
MMA.
seeing it more and more.
Yeah, they want to get into that space. They did want to be just in that more
Yeah, the
lifting.
lift angry thing.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to be facing Matt Mitrione, Bellator 206, correct?
Correct.
This will be this weekend. 207, excuse me. 207 is when you're going to be taking. I got the wrong number there. How are you feeling about it, man? It's been a bit of a layoff. Would you call it a layoff between your last fight?
No,
not really.
I was the last fight in the first round, so
Yeah.
I fought most recently. So I just been training the whole time, knowing it's a tournament style format. I've just been keeping on it. Going from May, I went right into June, started training July, August, and here we are.
Yeah.
I feel great, feel the best I've ever been. I don't think there's a point in my career where I knew who and basically when I was fighting beforehand. It's usually like, all right, you fight, do whatever you want for a little while, and then you get a name and a date.
Right.
So I knew that beforehand, so
Okay.
it's easier.
You're in a weird position, right? Because let's think about it for a second. You just had Rory McDonald, a supreme talent. He jumped up a weight class. It did not go very well for him. But the truth is, I look at this tournament and I'm like, I think Ryan's the prohibitive favorite. How difficult is it to navigate weight and to know when is it a task you can handle and when is too much? When are you biting off more than you can chew?
In this tournament, Matt's one of the bigger guys, right? But at the end of the day, he's going to be 10, 15 pounds heavier than me. If he comes in at low 240s like he was talking about on social media. And so for me, I got up to 238, 239 this camp. I'm sitting right around 230, 235.
Damn.
So for me, I think it's, between light heavyweights and heavyweights, a lot of us can be considered a heavyweight regardless. I'll cut down from 230 to 205. So for me, it's not really a big jump. I have certain attributes that I feel I bring to this heavyweight tournament that some of the heavyweights don't have. That cardio, the quickness. And one thing that Matt's used to having over other people is that speed and that athletic ability, which I have also. Plus, I have the cardio. I have some of the best cardio in the light heavyweight divisions, let alone the heavyweight division.
No, it really is true. What did you make of that fight, by the way? I thought Mousasi would win. I was just like, let's say they're equally skilled. One guy's bigger. It's just going to be for him. I didn't know how it was going to go. I did not expect that. That was all one-way traffic.
Yeah, Rory said he just wasn't in it, and that happens some fights. You go in and
it happened to you before?
It happened to me. Just game planning and you train so long to do a certain thing, and then everything goes out the window. For me, it was like Anthony Johnson fight. I went in there and shot a terrible shot, right away. It's one of those things where you don't show up, and then, Mousasi's fought like heavyweight, middleweight, he's a big
All
boy
over the
still,
place,
yeah. So, I was surprised how it went. But at the same time, some people have off days also, a combination of both. But they're both studs, and a cool fight to see.
It really was. In terms of that, like, is there any way to calibrate that for you or any other athlete on fight day? I mean, it sounds like sometimes you just show up and you're like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing here. There's no way to head that off.
It's routine. It's having the same routine every time, knowing, all right, for me it's like, all right, I have a certain. It's kind of dumb stuff, but I have to have my a sweet potatoes that I take and I eat at a certain time because I know I'm going to be hungry and my stomach's going to feel weird right before a fight. So it's just trial and error. And I've had 30 plus fights where I've got to figure out what works the best for me. But at the end of the day, I know usually 98% of the time, when the bell rings, we touch gloves, when we start fighting, that I show up. And so I fall back on that every time. But some days you don't feel the best. You get up and you're kind of sluggish. You're trying to get that going. And it's just kind of pushing through it.
How do you feel with Bellator? I mean, your fight with King Mo went about as well as possible. Here you are in this heavyweight tournament. They're taking you all to do all the rounds, all the shows. You're getting to wear your own sponsors.
Yeah.
Sounds like you don't have any regrets, huh?
No, I'm loving it. I'm having fun. I came over to, still fight the best guys in the world. I came over, beat Phil Davis, who's arguably top 3 across, any of the promotions.
In New York City,
yeah, in Madison Square Garden, huge card. And then for me, it's just being able to do things like this. I get asked, hey, you want to jump in this heavyweight tournament for the heavyweight belt, and you get to keep your light heavyweight belt, and we'll see what happens after that. I was like, hell yeah, let's do that. So that's what I love about, being over here. I can do things like this. I'm fighting Matt Mitrione, here coming up on Friday, and we're in a Grand Prix, and we got Fedor and Chael Sonnen on the other side. It's huge. I get to go try to be a 2-division champion.
What did you make of that brawl on Saturday?
That was crazy.
That was wild, right?
Yeah.
Dude, these Dagestanis, they don't play around, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was great for the sport, but I don't think it was necessarily the end of the world either. You got a potential rematch in the making, which is even bigger than that fight. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff done for the lead up to that fight with Conor and the bus incident, and then that's part of the whole show and the promos and all that. They add that into the storyline, and then when Khabib jumps over and there's a fight and brawl between the teams, why wasn't that expected?
Have you ever been involved in, even on the regional scene, anything like even close to that?
No, not close to that. There's times when you're cornering people and there's like words or something like that, but there never has it gone into a full-on brawl. I've been, a couple buddies have been at a fight where they fought, in a rough crowd and, at one of those small regional bar shows, and melee, started happening and guns got pulled out and stuff.
Oh, Jesus, really?
That's where I can go, at one of those shows. So try to stay away from that.
Tournament, you don't have to worry about any of this trash talk, right? I mean, on some level, it's like, look, it's just bracketed. You all already know what's going to happen. It's already set up.
Yeah.
The future's already, you have to make your own future, but in terms of the path, it's kind of all does it for you.
Yeah, you don't have to vie for a fight. You don't have to sit there and get on the mic and say, hey, I want to fight Fedor, I want to fight Chael, or this and that. It's a bracket. It's what I'm used to. I grew up in a bracket sport, in wrestling. Yeah. You win, right? That does the talking, you move on.
Right.
And so that's what I like about about this whole tournament for the heavyweight championship, because if there wasn't, it's nowadays it's who gets the title shot. Who's going to bring the most eyeballs? Who's going to talk the most shit? Who's going to do that?
Are you glad you're not part of that?
Yeah, I just want to represent, the MMA community, professionally, and have some integrity in it. And I get, stuff's going to happen, and I get the shit talking, and I enjoy it. I like listening to it.
You've done some of it.
I've done some of it. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't.
Right.
But a lot of it, it's just shit talking just to do it, because that's the MO, And even though there's respect, it's like, all right, what are we going to stir up, But at the same time, it's fun and it sells fights. But at the end of the day, we want the sport to be a mainstream professional. There's still people out there that look at the sport and see what happened on Saturday night and say, see, I told you, these guys are,
My thing is, it's like, you didn't get enough of your lust for violence with fist fighting. Like
four rounds, right?
Yeah, it's like that didn't quench your appetite. Yeah. I don't know really what would at some point. A couple more things about this, if I may. The Cormier fight. I know you and him had words back in the day.
Yeah.
Any, not regret exactly, but any part of you still wishes that was a possibility?
Oh yeah, for sure. He's a competitor. He's a great champion, a great competitor. He always has been his whole life. And for me, he's the same way. I'm the same way. I want to test myself against the best. And he's a double champ right now, heavyweight and light heavyweight over in the UFC. And yeah, I wish I would have got that fight. I was trying for that fight, for a long time. And
were you surprised he beat Stipe?
I trained with Stipe a little bit, a couple days before that fight, and it was a little bit of a surprise, but at the same time, both those guys are studs. They're champions in their own right, so for it to go either way, I thought Stipe might have had a little size on him, but then when he came in heavier than him and whatnot, and he has that wrestling he can go to at any point, and so that's how he set it up. He was setting it up with pummeling, how that underhook came over, boom. So I wasn't too surprised if any of them won.
Where do you think you would be if you had stayed in UFC? Like right here, you're in Bellator, as I mentioned, you beat Mo Lawal. What was that, 15 seconds, something like that?
Yeah.
Something crazy quick, and you beat Phil Davis. It was a tough fight, but you got it done. You won the belt. If you were, because for example, there's this talk about Mousasi. It's like, he's in Bellator, but that might be the best middleweight in the world.
Yeah.
Where do you think you rank all time? Not all time, but among active competitors.
Sitting there right now,
yeah.
I think I'd be, it depends what Gustafsson was doing, where they want to put him, but I think I'd be one of the number one contenders,
For sure.
I beat the guy that's ranked number 3, and OSP's in there, and a couple other guys, but it's like, I was always right there, but I think I'd be, right under Cormier, Gustafsson being out, haven't fought so long. They always like to put him above me because of the bigger fights that he had, but I'd be right there.
Let's think about this. John Jones is probably going to come back at some point. Mm-hmm. You fought him back in the day. Do you think there'll be a drop-off or no?
With John? I don't know. He came out and looked great. His last fight was
sure
Cormier,
did.
Yeah. Getting older doesn't necessarily mean you're dropping off either. I feel the best I've ever felt. I'm 35 years old.
Wow.
Mentally and physically. The time off, though, I assume he's training, but you never know. So a third fight with Cormier and John Jones. Cormier was looking good in that fight until John set him up with that kick.
Yep.
So it's one of those things. I don't think he's going to fall off too much. And then I feel the 205-pound division is pretty weak over there, and so you're going to have, when Cormier retires, you're going to have John Jones, Gustafsson, and then there's a few others in there that are super tough, but it's a very shallow division.
Let's talk about your fight. You got Matt Mitrione coming up. He is a big guy, man. I talked to him a couple times. Not a small person.
Mm-hmm.
So neither are you, of course. That's the interesting part about it. When you size him up, quite literally, what do you envision as, these are my responsibilities, these are my tasks to win? What are those?
For me, if you're, I think any MMA fan, especially looking at his last fight or whatnot, if you look at his record, he's never fought a wrestler. I mean, you can call Roy Nelson a wrestler, but he's never fought a dynamic, explosive wrestler. Not only that, I have power in both my hands. I can knock you out. I can take you down. I can grind you out. I can finish you on the ground, and I kind of look at it as a Linton Vassell fight a couple fights ago when I defended the belt against him. He's a big boy. He's 250 now.
He is a big guy.
He's a big boy. And controlling him, and I feel he has better jiu-jitsu than that. Ended up getting my position and finishing him on the ground. But that being said, Matt is very, very talented. He's a great fighter. I think his biggest attribute is his mind. He thinks he's going to win. He goes out there and believes in himself. He's very quick on his feet. He moves around well. He's got a good right hand. I think he's not really a natural southpaw, but it's one of those things where you got to be ready. He has a lot of first-round finishes.
Right.
But for me, I'm willing to go to that place not a lot of people like to go. That's what I was saying. I have some of the best conditioning at the light heavyweight division, let alone the heavyweight. I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to, if need be, grind it out on the feet, on the mat, wherever on the ground. So for me, it's just putting those things together.
Who wins, Fedor or Chael?
I usually pick a fighter when I get asked that, but I have no idea on this fight.
It's a tough call.
It's a tough call, yeah. Chael's a wrestler, and I always kind of lean towards wrestlers, but Fedor is, he's one of those unknowns where he can come in and just knock your block off right away.
I thought Frank was going to win.
I thought the size and everything.
And nope,
Yeah. It's just, And what Fedor has too is you get in there and you're across the cage from him. You're like, I'm fighting Fedor right now, you know. And I think Chael might have a little bit. So I think it's just one of those fights where, for me, it's 50-50. Whoever implements their game plan. If Chael can go out and get 3 takedowns, 1 around, I think he wins. If Fedor stuffs 2 of his shots right at the beginning, I think it's Fedor's fight.
What about Fedor's guard? He's got dynamic hips for a big guy underneath.
Absolutely. I just don't know if we've seen it
In a while.
recently, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest factor. Can Chael take him down and hold him down, basically? That's how he's going to win. Or if he gets taken down, Fedor pops back up and keeps doing that, it's Fedor's fight all night.
Did you think Khabib was going to beat Conor like that?
I did, yeah.
His wrestling is just, it's another level.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just, if him going in there and thinking he can strike, with Conor, and he dropped him though, but then getting confidence from that and then staying in the pocket like he kind of was, you got to be careful with Conor. But man, he fought a perfect fight and just drug him down, emptied that gas tank a little bit, less pop on Conor's punches. Almost knocked him out, and then ended up finishing the fight.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Before you go, are you still doing work with veterans? I know you have for a long time.
Yeah, we usually do something, all the time, and I think this time we'll take these some veterans out for a little pheasant hunt and show them a good time. I just like to get involved in that. I've been to a ton of different events where I've heard the stories, I've met the people, and it's the least I can do in my position, so I try to give back whenever I can.
Is there any particular, if folks want more information about how to get involved in the lives of veterans and help them, what do you think is a good way that they could do that?
Man, I always liked Brian Stan's Hire Heroes. I was with them for one fight, and I walked out with a shirt, and it was a cool experience as Brian got a call from a veteran that hadn't had a job in 2 years, saw it on my shirt, called, signed up, got a job in the next 3 weeks from there, and has been working at the job ever since. So hearing that, that's what it's all about, So Hire Heroes is always a good one to go to.
All right, man. Well, you know what? It's great to see you. I look forward to the fight. You're an OG in the game now.
I know, crazy, right?
Isn't that wild?
I feel like I'm a young guy in the sport because my body feels great, my mind feels great.
You're looking for good shape.
Thank you. But it's been, I'm 20 fights in UFC, 3 over here. I'm 30 fights plus. Definitely a veteran.
You're definitely a veteran, but you're a very capable one.
Yeah, there you go. Appreciate it.
It's going to be at the Mohegan Sun.
Yep.
You and Matt Mitrione will be the main event for the semifinals of the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. That'll be on Friday. You can catch that on Paramount. And I think it's on DAZN as well, but I'll double check. But for sure it'll be on Paramount. Thank you so much, Ryan Bader.
it.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Best of luck to you on Saturday.
Thank you.
Friday, excuse me. All right. And now we have to go to our last and final guest. Do we have him up there, Danny? Let me know, somebody. All right, let's go to him now. He is a respected coach, a former fighter himself, and he made, I thought, a call that was so important, not merely for his fighter, but the sport. The sport needed to see that, and we'll talk about that in just a second with our next guest, the one and only Duke Roufus. Duke, how are you, sir? Oh, there he is.
Here we go. I'm doing
great. Where are you at, Duke?
I'm at home today. I'm just getting ready to go to practice.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. Sorry it took me a little bit longer. The schedule got all bumped around.
Worries.
But we appreciate you. Can I just say thank you for doing that for the sport? I really, and I mean this, we've had this debate a lot of times on the show about when's the right time. And I know coaches and corners care about their fighter, but we've got a weird culture, man, where people don't want to pull the trigger on something. And everybody knows Anthony is tough. Everybody knows he's capable. Everybody knows he's a good fighter. He doesn't need to take unnecessary punishment. Tell me why you made that call and if you agree with my general assessment.
No, I do. It's the kid's tough as nails. We went through that in the Dos Anjos fighting for the title. The older I'm getting, we grow up in a Rocky movie culture. Rudy, it ain't over till it's over. We have a great positive mental attitude, not to quit, not to give up, etc. But sometimes it's to a fault, and I just, and stylistically, this isn't a guy that you can jab and grab and coast on, like, say, in a boxing or a Muay Thai fight with your hand damaged. Here's the thing, Tony Ferguson is a very mean elbow expert. Now, if you know anything about Muay Thai, the only thing that keeps an elbow expert off you is hard punching and good clinching. With Anthony's hand damaged, he couldn't keep him off of him getting elbowed. Secondly, he can't clinch him or even submit him if his hand is jacked. So sometimes you can risk injuries in a fight against a guy like Tony Ferguson, who likes to hit people with those elbows. I just thought it was the right decision. Tony's a hell of a fighter. His numbers speak for themselves, and he showed in his performance. I mean, Anthony was, just so close to taking him out, and he's a very resilient warrior. And it's just sometimes you gotta know when to fold him. And I just thought it was the right decision. He's got a fracture behind his knuckle, and tomorrow he sees a specialist in Las Vegas to see if he's going to need surgery. So if you look at my hand, you can see a lot of fun things. I'm trying to get that in the camera. I'm missing knuckles. You can see how bad my hand is. Yeah. I'm living proof of sometimes you need someone to help you, man. I love my family. My wife has been with me since we're 26 years old. And she lived through my whole crazy fight career. And I'm not going to lie, my life isn't glamorous. I wake up every day in pain. Thank God to the Turp House, who's got me on CBD oil to help with my inflammation. The medical care that was given in my day to fighters was garbage. So I have so many bad injuries that I'm living with, and I want to help the guys I train and women not live a life that I live, because I live in pain daily. And maybe if I would have had some fights where I didn't fight, go into a fight injured, or I didn't continue to fight long after, because I started doing the math on when a fighter fights injured or continues to fight, the winning percentage from my experience is quite low. And I just started to think about that more. Actually, Anthony, 3 weeks before the Dustin Poirier fight, he got stitches in his head real bad. He was sparring another guy, and they accidentally headbutted, and he was cut bad. So in the corner that whole night, just a horrific experience, knowing what I knew coming into the fight, that those stitches aren't going to hold up, the cut isn't going to hold up, and watching him bleed like that, I just can't be a party to that anymore. It's just tough. So I'm really looking for honesty and transparency from my fighters, because sometimes they hide injuries from me, and we can't have that. We're in the hurt business, especially MMA. Boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, you could jab and grab and tie up, and the referee will break you, and you can stall when you clinch. MMA, the action doesn't stop. So when you're a wounded animal in there, it's easy to get taken out. So that being said, MMA is so dangerous. I just thought it was the right decision. I mean, on a really positive note, Anthony told Tony in the octagon right after the fight, bro, that was the most fun I've ever had in the octagon. Even though he didn't win, his spirit is high. He's high. He's very focused, hungry again, texting me all day about what we're going to do to improve and etc. So, his spirit isn't broken. We didn't get the win, but I think he was a silver lining on a really tough night for the UFC and MMA. Him and Tony, of course. Tony, too. Tony, much respect to him. No trash talking, just a little machismo, a lot of heart, a lot of will, and just they embraced afterwards, and they're cool.
All right, so a few things to follow up here. I can't tell you how many times, Duke, and I know you've heard this probably more than me. I've heard so many times a fighter say, well, I've told my corner that if they throw the towel when I'm in trouble, that I'll never have them corner me again. They essentially blackmail emotionally their corner. Have you ever had a fighter tell you that, or have you ever heard of something like that? Because that to me seems incredibly toxic.
They don't mean to, here's the cool thing. I was a high-level fighter, so I understand that. And then I understand coaching now. And that's the one thing I have for these guys, empathy. I understand their mentality. A lot of these guys risk a lot to fight. And I'm not talking health, they time away from their families, careers they could have pursued. Other opportunities go on the back burner, so they get a very extreme mindset. I have a hashtag I like using a lot about that life. They become different people. When you're a prize fighter, you're a different man or woman, especially the great ones. So I don't see it as toxic. It's overcommitted, and it's hard to scold someone for being overcommitted. So instead of taking that away from them, if you fire me because I stopped your fight, I can live with that. No problem. I'm going to live with that. And you're going to see me doing that more because, the neat thing, what I love about MMA is a loss doesn't define your career. Anthony did exactly what he said he was going to do. He came to perform. And that's what we love about fighting. When fighters fight great fights, it's 2 rounds of back and forth entertainment and a lot of great techniques from both guys, and it was a fun fight to watch. So that's one thing I learned when I was fighting in Japan for K1. Yeah, you want to win the fight, but K1 was an entertainment-based sport. Japanese MMA was. And I've always kind of coached from that perspective. And if you see my guys who do perform well, they're very popular. Anthony Pettis, Paul Felder, he is very popular. Even my newer middleweight, he's 4-1 in the UFC with 4 finishes, and he has 2 bonuses. Gerald Mearshart, very popular guy. John McDessie just got his first bonus under me. Tyron Woodley has 3 bonuses in his last 5 fights. Take that for boring folks. So
That's a fair point. Let me interject if I may. There's an argument I hear all the time, and I don't think it's a very good one, but it's a hard one for me to make talking to somebody like you. Now, again, we're on the same wavelength here, but I'd be curious to get your position on it. I hear this all the time, like in the case of the Raquel Pennington non-stoppage. I'm not asking you to weigh in on that. However, I made a point because people afterwards were saying, well, no one knows a fighter like their corner. And I believe that to be true. I would not challenge that. But it also occurs to me, Duke, that a fighter can have a corner that loves them and cares about them and believes in them so much that they can overestimate how ready they are for another round and then send them back out there. It's like knowing a fighter is important, but knowing when they've had enough seems like a different skill.
100%. There's no handbook in coaching fighters, just so, it's not this isn't as advanced and as organized as, say, football, international football, soccer, baseball, basketball. Those sports are over a century old with a lot of data and techniques. Relatively, I call the UFC, they say it's a 25-year anniversary of it. It is technically, but UFC changed a lot. MMA when Zuffa took it over 18 years ago. To me, that's how old the sport really is when we went into the commission era, etc. So I think, I expect my fighters to grow from every experience. Well, I have to grow from every experience. And I'm always trying to get better as a coach, a fighter, a mentor, or excuse me, not a fighter, but a teacher, a mentor. It's important for me to grow. It's 2018, not 1998. And again, the elements in MMA, just the fact of the MMA glove, that's one thing. Getting hit with these bones like you do, that's the stuff that hurts, man. Knees, elbows, kicks to the head. There's a lot of brutal fights the other night. And, maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. I'd rather be soft and have peace of mind. Anthony and Sergio, I'm going to be friends with them for the rest of my life. They're my good friends. Annette, his mother, sent me a very well written message that made me feel like I did the right decision. One of their brother Ray too. Like these people, I got to be there for him. Could he have won? But if I go back and I look at the research of fighters who have gone into fights hurt, the numbers, there's no asterisk next to when you go into a fight and you lose because you're injured or coming into it. I think that's the biggest thing that's hurting our sport. Too many fighters fight when they're hurt, and weight cutting. Those 2 things are what's going to hurt our sport in the long run.
How do we fix it, Duke? I mean, I think part of it is obviously what you're doing, making the right call, coming in and talking about it, explaining your reasoning, setting the example. That helps. But you're just one guy, powerful guy, but you are just one guy. How do we get better as a community about this?
I don't know, man. I'm not on the soapbox. I'm just here to do my thing. It's like I just want this hopefully to be, it's all right. I mean, uh, I remember Paul was depressed after his fight, and Dana White sent him a really thoughtful message. A lot of the guys, they get so defeatist, and I get it. I've been there. When you lose, it feels like your life's over. It's very gut wrenching. No one wants to lose in front of God and everybody, especially on a big event like this weekend. But the UFC does tell you that's not about winning and losing. Yes, it is, and it isn't. But the fighters I work with that perform on the regular, the UFC loves. Bellator too. We have a lot of great fighters in our sport that are winning. Our big problem, we need stars. We need stars that perform. And, at the end of the day, the public wants performing. So if you have a fighter that performs well, but they can't continue to perform, protect them. The other thing is everyone complains about money in our sport. Don't tie your whole sport into one fight making money. Save yourself so you can fight often. That's something I learned in Thailand. When they see a fighter's hurt, the referee stops the fight. If they see someone's got an injury, the referee's closest to it, they'll pull the plug, even though maybe a fighter could keep going. The culture in Thailand is they fight for a living, so they fight often. They might fight 10 times a year, 8 times on the minimum at the high level. So they need to protect their body, and that's what, you can be tough, but tough only lasts so long. You got to realize, especially again, Tony, the only way you're keeping that big beast off you is what Anthony was trying to do, box him off. He's nasty with those elbows, great fighter.
And unrelenting with him. 2 more questions for you, Duke, and I really appreciate your time. I certainly don't want to dredge up the past, but I have to just ask one question about it, namely the incident a few years ago, the kid in the amateur show that was related to your camp. Obviously, there was a lot of complicating factors, including a botched weight cut and a whole lot of, commission failures there. But with what happened to him, has that partly informed, I don't know if this is a change for you, but partly informed what you're doing now about being proactive with the health of these fighters when they get into these weird predicaments?
No, that doesn't have much to do with it. It was a sad incident, but there's other factors that I can't get into that go on with that. That being said, MMA is a completely different animal than kickboxing, Muay Thai, and boxing. Like I said, I've fought many a times with my hand broken, but if you're fighting the right type of fighter, you can get away with it. At the end of the fight, if I'm winning, I can teep you, I can trip you, I can grab you. But the thing is, the fight keeps going in MMA. The other thing, you're going to need your hand to grapple. So no, it's different. They're apples and oranges there. It's and the other thing too is I live in a world where we get from the outside as coaches, we get so much perceived control over situations. I don't have control over any of the guys I train with. I'm sorry. All my fighters on the regular don't take my advice regularly. Everyone, amateur to professional. So how I've learned to navigate that is I don't give orders. I don't ask anything. I suggest. That's my new terminology that keeps me sleeping happy at night. I suggest something because all my fighters ignore everything I say, from weight cutting to conditioning to they do. Ask any one of them if they will agree. So instead of butting heads with them, I kind of take the way Angelo Dundee trained Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali did his own thing. Most of the time, he didn't listen to his coaches. This isn't the NFL or the Premier League in England. I'm not the controller of the fighters. I'm an employee of the fighter. That's what people forget. I have a gym that I'll train at, but at the end of the day, these guys make decisions that I don't always agree with. I didn't agree with Anthony fighting at 145, but I supported him because he's my friend, and instead of fighting on it, I'm gonna try and help him make the best of a situation, and that's just who I am, and I get, though, I'm not going to argue with these guys. They're alpha male, female people. That's who they are. If I go home every day and get butthurt about them not listening to me, I might as well quit coaching. I have many people from amateur to hobbyists that, that they don't listen to me. It's a nature of coaching. Once you figure that out, you'll learn to be a lot happier.
All right, last question about this. And again, I really appreciate your time and your perspective. One of the things that occurs to me is you made a great choice, an important choice, the right choice. I couldn't compliment you more on the courage it took to make it. But what also occurs to me, though, is you made it in the course of this, in this context of this long-standing relationship you've had with the Pettis brothers, and in this case, Anthony. You've known these guys for a long time. They've known you for a long time. So the question is as follows. It's two parts. One, what did he say to you in the locker room about it afterwards? Because as you noted, he doesn't seem upset about it at all, which was great to see. And second of all, if you could talk to other coaches who might be listening, what is the key to having a relationship with a fighter so that you can make a call like that and afterwards everyone goes home not happy that they lost necessarily, but happy that they live to fight another day?
Just you got to create transparency in the relationship. One of our biggest things we focused on is communication. We have an advantage at Roufus Sport. We don't have a big gym, so I don't have a crazy amount of fighters I work with. I'm real close with all the people that I travel and go to fights with. That's my biggest thing. And understanding everyone has the same goals, meaning, you want to win, want to be successful, want to be a champion, but what's our ethos? How are we going to become a champion? What are we going to do? Like, what are our team's core values? When I say team, the team of the fighter and the coach. Is it win at all cost, or is it win because we did everything right, or are we just hoping and showing up and rolling the dice? It hurts. It did it. I told Anthony 3-4 times, I'm sorry I stopped the fight, but it's just, I felt it was the right thing to do. I mean, like I said, and you're going to see me, I'm getting on my guys too about not fighting injured anymore. I was just talking with Coach Skipper Kelp backstage Friday about one of my K1 fights. I lost a fight because I fought with my ribs hurt. I've done that so many times, and I'm not going to let my guys lose. Quit rolling the dice, man. The house always wins, right? And gambling. Well, right. So, you're injured for a reason. You're going to lose. You're fighting elite guys, especially if you look at the murderous row of guys that are fighting Anthony Pettis. He's not fighting, entry-level UFC guys. They're all guys who are at their peak right now. That being said, I want to make one point. I know the UFC doesn't want to do this. They need more weight classes. A 15-pound spread and a 20-pound spread is too much weight. That's why guys are going to start getting hurt too, because they're either going to be too weak when they fight, or they just have too big of a size advantage for a guy who can't make that lower weight class. I think we need 165, 175, 185, 195, etc. I think it would help the sport big time. Sergio Pettis, he didn't have the performance he wanted, but he's also contemplating, under my advice, to go to 135. Sergio's 3-1 at 135 in the UFC when he came in. The only guy he lost to is Bruce Leroy, who he was handling him until Sergio shot for a leg lock. Bruce Leroy, reversed the situation and took Sergio's back. So it wasn't like he was getting beat up because of size. He was winning that fight up to that point at the end of the third round. So I think that Sergio's a much stronger 35er. Sergio debuted at 145, and I'm seeing so many guys depleting their strength, their hunger. I think the weight cut's harder for some of these kids than the fights are, and that's why you see, kind of flat performances from them. I come from a mindset. We need to be a lion. You got to feed your lion so he can be the king of the jungle. You know, I don't want a house kitten who is neutered and has no bite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. You know what? We got to get moving, Duke, but I could talk about this all day. Let me just say, I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people I know, certainly inside media. Thank you for making that call. Anthony can hold his head up high, and you guys can get back at it when he's healthy and ready to go. And I know that the sport will be ready to welcome Anthony back as soon as that happens. Thank you so much, Duke. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, there he is. Duke Roufus, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have, with the time we have remaining, I am going to declare an audible here. It is time for the sound off right here on the MMA Hour. All right, let's do it, Danny. You and I, we don't have a moment to waste. So let's get to it now. You said the calls were huge in voluminous, I suppose.
Yes.
And all good. Not a moment to waste, my friend.
All right,
let's get
it. Obviously, UFC 229 stuff, the whole Khabib and Conor McGregor stuff. So let's get right into it.
All right.
Hey, this is Wilson from New York, and I just wanted to talk about what happened, you know, inside of the cage. Yes, I know Khabib has started shit outside of the cage. But what happened inside of the cage and how it all started was Conor McGregor sucking, punching Khabib's cousin. And no one's talking about that. They're just talking about how Conor got jumped, having him the victim. And I feel like we should all shine a light on everything, what happened outside and inside, who started the outside brawl,
I get it. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal with that call. People keep saying the media is not talking about this. The media is all talking about it.
Tweets about that.
Why do people imagine that no one's talking about it? The video is out there for everyone to see. With the first reaction videos all came out before anyone had a chance to really pour over stuff. Now that it's clear, everyone's talking about it. This is a nonsense talking point. It's not real. It's total fake news. Okay, now let's adjudicate this a little bit, Danny. Here's the thing. Did Conor attack a guy unprovoked inside the cage? Yes, he did. So, you know, I felt bad that he was getting punched, but at the same time, again, you poke the rattlesnake with a stick, you're going to get, this is what you get, and to a degree. Here's what I'll say. I don't understand the distinction, though. It's like, I'm not looking at Khabib any more or worse than Conor. To me, once you leave the octagon and you flying jump kick someone's teammate, if that other dude punches another dude, that is just an inevitable consequence of it. They're all in the wrong as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about that. Clearly, Khabib was the first one to jump out, and as soon as that happened, you knew anything was going to go from then on. I mean, it was going to spark chaos, right?
Like, what are folks expecting? He jumps out of the cage and Conor's just going to sit there?
Yeah.
He shouldn't do anything, but whether he should or he shouldn't is not a question about whether he will or he won't. Easy way to evaluate this. Next.
Yeah. All right, now let's talk about what this means for the UFC.
Okay.
Hi, Danny. Hi, Luke. I'm Ben calling from France. While watching the brawl up on Saturday night, all I could think of was that this event just delayed the legalization of MMA in France by a few years. I think opponents of MMA here will jump on it and talk about all the lack of respect and sportsmanship. My question is, do you think there is a way this brawl could actually be a good thing, or was it just a disaster? Thanks for your time, and I'm loving the new MMA Hour. Keep on going.
So, first of all, awesome question. Nice and short, right?
Yeah, and good microphone.
Yes, very good. That was an email for an international caller.
The MMA Hour at VoxMedia.com.
So is this ultimately good for the UFC, good promotion? I mean, this whole fight, the promotion was built off an assault case, right? In Brooklyn.
But it's not, though. It's not. Here's the thing about this. And I've said this before, and I had this debate with some people on Twitter. I'm not arguing that the bus was quite literally a valuable vehicle to sell the fight. Yes, it was. But again, I go back to the John Malkovich thing. Could you tell the story of this fight and never make reference to the bus and still have outlandish sales? Yes, of course you can. You're talking about the biggest star in the sport versus the toughest motherfucker in that division. What are people talking about that you need a bus? Oh, we got to have that bus in there. No, you don't. No, you don't. It's not. It's part of the story because it didn't happen. But like this adherence to it, like this is really the focus. No, this is a distraction for the dogs. It drives me crazy.
So
sorry, I haven't slept well, and I'm just full of all these kinds of emotions.
All good. But so is, to answer this question, ultimately, is this going to be good for the UFC, or is this a disaster? Is this a setback for them?
In France, certainly this is not going to help any kind of efforts with getting that mainstreamed. I trust that the French caller knows France better than us, and we know that they've had some problems there. Remember, judo is also strong in France, and they have they're natural lobbyists against MMA, so that doesn't help. Inside the United States, I think it probably in the end will be either a wash or a benefit to the UFC, if I can be candid about it. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's the thing.
Yeah, I think everyone's initial reaction, especially on Twitter, was like, "Oh my God, this is awful! Black eye to the sport, this and that." But
it was an ugly scene.
It was very ugly. In fact, it was very ugly at the moment. But I think us as working in media, we kind of lose a little bit of the fan in us, right? Because we got to look at things with a different perspective, right? And fan, by nature of the name fanatic, right? Like people don't really analyze this like, oh, this fight should never happen. That bus incident, this is horrible that he went out of the cage and fought. Most people are going, oh, this is so sick. What? World star, taking out all their phones and filming this. I mean, let's be real. At the end of the day, I think this only makes this rivalry even bigger, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. But I think that's true. Let me say one final note about this, if I may, Danny. Look, if the worst that happens is that Khabib jumps out of the cage and goes after Dylan Dennis, then we'll all sleep fine at night. Here's what I worry about is escalating to the point where something serious happens. Mm-hmm. Someone actually gets really hurt or, God forbid, killed in some kind of way. Because everyone is out here playing like it's a big game. These Dagestanis, they're not playing games with you. It's not a game to them. So, look, again, if this is all that happens, okay, it's fine. But I worry about escalating tensions.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. And everybody's mentioning and speaking of a rematch right now. And I even tweeted, and I caught a lot of hate from this on Twitter, obviously. Yeah, believe it or not. I even tweeted, dude, is even a rematch safe to run? I mean, there's so much tension right now. And forget about Khabib and McGregor. Look at what happened between the fans. There was clearly, the videos were literally Irish fans. Yep. Going against, Khabib's people, Dagestanis, Russian people that were backing up, Khabib. And it was an ugly scene, man.
It really was.
It was an ugly scene.
I agree.
So, yeah. All right. Let's keep moving and discuss some other things about this whole incident.
Hi guys, Briggsy here from London. Enjoy the show. Thanks very much. Just a quick question. Is there any precedent in a title fight scenario where the non-title holding loser gets a rematch when there was a non-controversial win for the title holder? Cheers, guys.
Boy, that is a good question.
So we've seen already the UFC make all kinds of rematches that don't make any sense, right? The Rose Joanna Jędrzejczyk, right? It was pretty clear that Rose defeated Jędrzejczyk in the first round. Same thing with Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw. Yep. But they had the belt. They were champions. What's going to happen here? Rematch or no?
Boy, I think it'd be a very bad idea for Conor McGregor to rematch right away. And you can say, well, didn't he rematch Nate Diaz right away? Mm-hmm. He did. But there were some circumstances he can go back to. First of all, he was piecing Nate Diaz up early in that fight. It was at a different weight class. There were some reasons you could think for optimism. I don't know what your reasons for optimism would be here. He can't wrestle with Khabib, not right now, and a year ain't going to fix that. He showed, I thought, some skill. I've said this before. Like, whose wrestling was better or worse, his or Edson Barboza? You could argue that Khabib showed better anti-wrestling than Edson Barboza, and I'd be perfectly content with saying as much. But it's still not even close to enough. Like, the guy just has so much of an advantage over everyone. If I'm McGregor, I absolutely put in a little more work in the gym before I ask for that one back.
Yeah, and as I said, the tensions are high. I think you got to let this one cool down for a bit.
Sure.
You cannot rebook an immediate rematch. Things are getting ugly and they can get out of hand. For a specific reason, the UFC knows, they're aware of this. The first press conference, there was no fans because of this, So I think, see what happens with Diaz and Poirier. If Diaz win or lose, I really don't think he wants to crack at the lightweight title. We don't even know what's going to happen with that, but I think probably the next move for Conor is that trilogy with Diaz. Would you agree?
I hope, actually. Win or lose for Nate, by the way.
And it's crazy how that's like the more civil fight, but even then.
I know. It's wild.
Jesus, MMA is insane.
It certainly is.
All right, well, let's talk about what's going to happen with the UFC lightweight title.
Hey, Luke, it's Brian from Orlando. I was just wondering if Khabib gets stripped or, gets sentenced by the commission and gets stripped as a result, who do you have fight for the lightweight title? Thinking maybe Tony Ferguson versus either the winner of Nate and Dustin, or maybe even Tony Ferguson versus McGregor. I'd just like to hear your thoughts.
Right. So let's be clear about this. The commission doesn't strip titles. The promotion does.
Yep.
I'll eat my hat if they strip his title. There's no way they're
You
doing
mean Chuck Mindenhall?
Yeah, I'll eat Chuck Mindenhall's hat. It's an expression, but
yeah, teasing.
Yeah, I understand. There's no way they're going to strip him. Now, what they might do in some other kind of public show of force, I don't know. I don't know how you do anything when you did nothing at all about McGregor.
Yeah.
So good luck with that one.
Yeah. So you don't think he gets stripped?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. Look, the UFC needs guys who can sell on pay-per-view. I mean, Khabib, you can say if he's a villain, he's a villain. But he ratcheted it up. Boy, people are saying nobody knows who Khabib is heading into this Conor McGregor fight. First of all, he had a much greater public profile, which you can measure through in many ways, not least of which was Google searches prior to the first Nate Diaz fight and this fight. Significantly greater impact years ago than Nate Diaz was before the Conor McGregor fight. And I know people challenge that. It's not. I am 1,000% right about that. And the other part is, even if you don't agree with that, people were saying no one knows who Khabib is. Boy, they know now. They know now.
Oh yeah. But okay, so maybe not stripped, but suspended. Is that possible?
Not really. No.
You don't think so?
No. I don't think they're going to do anything. No.
Well, which
if
sets,
someone had been really injured,
yeah,
that would change the debate. But he attacked one of Conor's teammates who, a lot of people seem to dislike. So
yeah. All right. So we've been talking about what happened after. Let's talk about what happened inside of the cage.
Okay.
Hi, Luke. My name is Shirley, and I'm calling from Brooklyn. My boyfriend Kenny and I disagree about who to blame for Conor's cheating during the fight. I'll let him go first.
Hey, Luke. So we saw the fence grabbing Khabib's gloves and shorts and throwing illegal knee during the fight. And personally, I don't really blame him for this. He was getting dominated and he was in desperation mode. So, like they say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Personally, I think the fault lies entirely with Herb Dean for failing to enforce the rules and being scared to, quote-unquote, influence the fight by taking a point.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, but I still think Conor's to blame for this. He behaved in a unsportsmanlike manner, and even though Herb Dean didn't do anything, it's still a dirty thing for Conor to do. Other fighters don't cheat that much when they're down, so why does he get a pass? Let us know what you think.
Thanks.
Boy. That might be the greatest question we've ever gotten.
I know, and it was our first couple callers.
Wow, they had two people talk, and they still kept it parsimonious. Well done.
Yeah. And they got it in a minute, and that's two people talking. Most people that call, they leave like 2-minute voicemails.
Yeah, amazing. How about you go first? What do you think?
So first of all, that's something I noticed a lot. He was grabbing the shorts, he was grabbing the glove. Yep. Even when Khabib, before the finishing sequence where Khabib was dragging him back, he even grabbed the fence for a second. I don't know if you noticed with his hand.
Yeah, I went over it a little bit with the Monday Morning Analyst. I didn't have a whole lot of time, but yes.
So there was a lot of cheating involved. And Khabib, it was so obvious that Khabib was talking to Herb Dean as it was happening. He was telling him, look, he keeps doing it. Man, how many times are we going to mention it? The refs got to go in there and start influencing the fight. I mean, that's their job. This whole idea that, no, we got to keep it a pure fight. Well, if the man's doing something illegal, he's not getting punished for it. I mean, it just so happened to be that it didn't influence the outcome. But given any other fighter, given all the things that happened, maybe it could have if it wasn't Khabib in that cage, right?
You know what's kind of funny is you watched some of the reaction to what Khabib did outside the cage. And here's, I don't condone it in any capacity, but I was looking at, like, people were defending it. So I was trying to, like, read their logic about why they were defending it. And their answer was, Conor didn't just talk a bunch of stuff, but he got away with a bunch of stuff. There's this sense that it was up to Khabib to stick it to him, to give him something that nobody else would. Now, I don't think Herb Dean is trying to give Conor any favoritism.
Yes.
And to answer the question, I would say, yeah, of course, if you're cheating, then you deserve some share of the blame. But really, I'm with you. I think Herb Dean, fighters are going to cheat.
Yeah.
Either intentionally or unintentionally. They're going to do it. somebody has to do something about it. That's the job
you
of the
Khabib
referee.
trying to drag you down and
Holding a
squeeze your
fence.
jaw.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to do anything possible to stop.
Yeah, and look, some of that might have been natural. Some of that might have been intentionally cheating. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is. Here's what I know. One guy in that octagon can do something about it other than Khabib, and that is Herb, or in this case, it was Herb Dean. But the referees, ultimately, that is where you can't rely on self-policing, right? Oh, it's up to the fighters to self-police. Yeah, it is, but they're not gonna. So that's why the referee is there.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
Right.
Now let's talk about Conor. This caller brought up an interesting point, and it's something I noticed as well.
Okay.
Hey, Luke. This is Carlos from Sunrise, Florida. I just wanted to talk about Conor real quick. I thought Saturday night he looked a bit slow. He didn't look like the old Conor that we know. A lot of his punches were missing that pop that he used to have, and he looked like he was thinking too much about his shots. I'm not taking anything from Khabib at all. He looked spectacular, but I don't know. Maybe Conor didn't take it so serious. I don't know. But I don't. It definitely didn't.
I'm gonna cut it right there.
Yeah. A lot of ums and ahs.
But
good question.
Yeah, good question. And look, I made this. I noticed this, and not even in the fight when Conor McGregor got in the octagon, and he was like, I mean, he did some of the vintage stuff, like the millionaire strut, and a few things, and he goes up to the camera, billionaire, right? But he just looked off. He didn't look with the same edge. He didn't have that same intensity. And am I wrong? Did you notice that as well?
I don't try to read too much into body language expertise. I think a lot of it is just, on the same level of eugenics. I think a lot of it, some of it's real, some of it's not. So did he look a little different, to answer your question? Yes. But to me, it's like, let's watch what happened in the cage. Dude, Khabib had a perfect fight. I mean, not a perfect fight, but pretty close to one.
Yeah.
Right? He went out there. People are like, he didn't do any damage in the first round. He doesn't need to. He's fighting a guy with a very low work capacity. All you got to do is make him work. And once you do, people are saying he didn't have the same zip and pop. Right. Because he had to wrestle for 4.5 minutes. Mm-hmm. He's not, he can't strike as well as he normally does with those kinds of conditions put on him. To me, it's like, I get that a second time, if Conor comes back, maybe there was some ring rust. If he comes back in, like, let's say, less than 6 months, he'll look better. I can totally believe that. But you got to give credit where it's due. Khabib went in there, and dude, Khabib did exactly what he said he was going to do every time. You don't show up at the press conference on time, I'm leaving. I'm going to be the first one to make weight. By the way, I'm going to make him tired, because when you do, he quits. Yeah. Everything he said he was going to do, he did. What do you want to do about that?
I agree with you. Obviously, Khabib's performance was almost flawless. But I would say that Conor did look a bit slow. I don't know if it's a 2-year layoff. I don't know what it is. He also has, he was trying to push that proper whiskey as well. He's got a business venture. Yeah. He was pushing that hard, man, and that takes time.
A little distracted, maybe.
I think maybe he was a little bit out of
focus. I think he was focused so much on Khabib's wrestling and having to wrestle himself, and it's not natural for him to wrestle. So that he just couldn't really get. Look at the first instance when Khabib shoots on the wrong leg, and Conor doesn't keep. He just sprawls and then stops. He doesn't keep moving, and so now he's all tangled up and he's having to think about it. That's not where he shines. He shines when he's just in a flow and there's rhythm going. And 98% of that for me is Khabib. But maybe you're right. Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah. All right. So obviously that was the biggest fight of the card, but tons of good things happened on that card as well. So let's talk about the co-main.
Let's see it.
What's going on, Luke and Danny? This is Dylan from New Jersey. I just wanted to get your guys' thought on, aside from the shit show that was post Khabib McGregor, one of the most dominant victories of the night was Tony Ferguson's win over Anthony Pettis. I want you to talk about coming 5-6 months removed from a brutal knee injury and looking like that. I really think that he's next in line for a shot at the belt. We don't really know what Khabib's status is going to be suspension-wise.
Due to time constraints, I'm going to cut it right here. But you get the question.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been talking to Tony. He was supposed to be in the show today. I don't know what happened. I was going to ask him about this little gift I got at the can we show a picture of this real quickly? You see that? The open workout. Anyway, right there. It's this. He called me out at the open workout. So I was like, come here. And then he gave it to me, and I was going to ask him about it. But
what's that?
It's like some kind of forearm thing. I don't really know. That's the thing. I was going to ask him. Like, I don't really understand what it is.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it's a workout tool. It's a workout tool. Neither here nor there. I mean, look, man, what do you want to say about Tony? He looks phenomenal. You know, and those tears at the end. I don't know exactly what he was thinking prior to the fight. It seems to me, judging from afar, that he looked like a guy who felt like the world forgot about him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did, or he just feels that way, or he's got some good arguments for it. I don't know. But that to me was like, when the world forgets about you, you begin to think about, maybe I'm worth being forgotten. And to go back and win that way, it looked to me like a guy who thought, no. The sun has not set on this career, not yet. I am still the guy. And, you know, it made me a little emotional watching it, to be quite honest. Yeah. I was really happy for him.
And for me, it wasn't only like the world forgot about him, but it's also where he was before. Like, people have to remember, at one point when Khabib had his health issues and couldn't make the fight, at one point all we could talk about was Conor McGregor versus Tony Ferguson. Those were the two guys, right? And maybe throw Nate Diaz in there, but Khabib for a second was out of the picture. And he was the champion, he was making the big bucks, and even the promotion. Like, there was nothing for him in the co-main event. It was really all surrounded around the main. So definitely forgotten. And, he made sure to let the world know, that he's back. I mean, 5 months from a gruesome injury. Even Dominic Cruz was saying, like, yo, I don't even know.
And by the way, the thing I find the craziest is that he didn't do PT with a registered physical trainer.
Yeah, I know. He did it all on his own.
Dude, it's just, I've said this before. Tony Ferguson is the only guy in the world who can make gold out of alchemy. Yeah. He's the only one.
Yeah, he's insane. So let's talk about the other side of that co-main event, Anthony Pettis.
Hey, this is Brandon Quintana from Roseville, California. How was your morning so far, Luke?
Terrible.
Cool. Anyway, my question is about Pettis. I believe Pettis' stock rose last night despite a loss. I also believe that the fight played out the best that it possibly could. Tony looked great and continued to streak. Pettis lost for no fault of his own and picked up where he left off in the Chiesa fight in terms of his creativity and the quality of his performance. However, even with the performance that he put on last night, could you see him stepping in there with the likes of someone like Kevin Lee or Justin Gaethje? I feel like Pettis might need a few more good matchups with maybe some strikers in the division. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good one. So let me answer this and then give it to you so we can move along because I got to get going. I have another 3 hours of radio to do. Yay. Okay, here's what I would say about that. I thought Anthony Pettis also looked phenomenal. By the way, he nearly stopped Tony Ferguson. Yes. I mean, he got, I'm not sure exactly how close he got, but it got a little dicey there. Actually, very dicey for a while. He had a great dude. I keep getting into the two confused. Anthony Pettis had one of the best attitudes all fight week. He looked completely dialed in. He took him a little while to make weight, but he made weight. Dude, I think you're right. Give him a little bit of a building block back up. Yeah. People still care. He still brings it. He's still a good fighter.
I think for a while, I thought, we had sort of the old Anthony Pettis was gone, right? And I think a lot of that was mental. I think, we saw a fighter like in, him coming up, he's Showtime Pettis. He was flashy. He was having fun in there, being creative. And then for a while, I feel like he got too serious and got too technical, and I feel like after the Poirier fight, and we saw that, he was just having fun in there, and he's been having fun. And we saw it in this fight, sticking out his tongue to the camera and whatnot. So I think at this point, he should get some fights to build him up, because you can tell he's got a lot of fight in him.
Yep.
I mean, he almost finished Ferguson, had him doing all kinds of flips.
Yeah.
We saw there. Yeah.
All right, we got time for one more, and then I got to get uptown.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the fight we never
Luke,
saw.
What's up, man? It's Michael from New York. After all the Khabib Conor debacle in the cage, whatever you want to call it, I have a question for you. How many pay-per-view buys do you think a Tony Ferguson Khabib Nurmagomedov fight does now? I actually think the fight does over 1 million pay-per-view buys now. I think Khabib's stardom is skyrocketed. With Tony Ferguson winning 12 fights in a row, I think that fight's a super fight now. Not super fight, in the upper echelon compared to Jordan Jones' GSP. I think Khabib's in that number now, and Tony Ferguson has that backstory as well with him. Just for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a good question. No one really knows exactly how popular Khabib is. There'll be some independent metrics. Here's what I know. After Nate Diaz fought and beat Conor, he blew up, but that had very different circumstances. And Diaz did have a bit of a brand recognition as a Diaz prior to that, so that kind of helped things afterwards. Here's what I do know for sure. Khabib is a much bigger star today than he was on Friday. Major improvement. Yeah. Is it worth enough to sell 1 million pay-per-view buys? I'm a little skeptical of that, but I don't know that to be wrong. It could be right. What do you think?
I would say no as far as 1 million, just because the pay-per-view landscape is so rough right now. But I think it could do very well. Be a high selling like 600,000.
Yep. I think that's
around there.
Sure.
I think that's pretty fair. And also, I just want to say, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. Let's take away all the fame, all the promotion, all the bad blood. That's such a much better matchup than the Conor one. Would you agree?
I think it's a much better fight. The two interesting matchups there, and I think it's look, those two guys, they've tried to make it 4 times and they can't. But the reality is they're too good to be kept apart. They keep finding a road to the other. I know it's painful. I know we're beaten dogs left out in the rain when it comes to Ferguson versus Nurmagomedov, but it has to happen, and I think frankly it will.
I feel so nostalgic watching the morning weigh-ins because they weighed in just minutes apart from each other.
I know.
I was just like, man, if we could just watch that.
And they both look good on Saturday night too. That would have been an epic fight. Man, I wish we had more time, but 2 hours is enough.
We had great calls, but
save them, and we can recycle them some more next week. So we'll see how things go. Good job today, my man. I really appreciate it. Okay. Thank you guys. As always, you can use the hashtag the MMA Hour, and you can call 844-866-2468. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. Until next time, stay frosty.